Welcome to the first round of the Simply Race British Championships for the Esports Sprint. Fourth after the first round, Anthony Jordan.
Okay, so hopefully I can be heard.
Is this working? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Yes, it sounds like we can.
Excellent.
So
let's do it this way then, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
I'll get rid of that microphone.
So really, Anthony, really good run from you. 11th in race 1 to 5th at the end of it after 30 laps, and then having a ding-dong battle at the end with the likes of quite a few drivers who, like, say, Chris Wilson, Sean King, amongst others. Must have been a pretty good feeling to do that defensive masterclass for about the last, I think it was at least the last 10 laps, I think.
I think the last 10 laps of that last clear race race 2 was the scariest moment of my life. I know that the tyres had completely gone. I was trying my hardest to look after them, and then I was seeing them close in, but I still had the meter up in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. It was telling me how much I'm losing a lap, and I just thought this is a huge distraction. Let's just turn that off. Let's just crack on. And, at the end of the race, I turned it back on to see the front 2 tyres were both 0. So I cooked them.
That would have been a definitive moment where you just thought, I might need new underwear after this race.
Yeah, definitely. I think, holding them up, my tactic for that one was to just back them up into each other. And it worked, and I was parking the car on the apex on every corner, just refusing any inside line. Had to then worry about the outside line and any switchback moves. So again, it was just, if you want to know how to defend, watch back the Clio race, the last few laps of race 2, and that's how you do it.
And you can watch that. That is actually available to watch now, because it has been broadcasted on the official Simply Race YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you want to get involved with the Simply Race British Championships, maybe even the Simply Race Endurance Series, which is due to come up soon, you can head to simplyrace.co.uk. And also, if you want to get interactive via our social media channels, use the hashtag SRBC. This is the first of 6 rounds. But we're in the second phase of qualifying ahead of race 2. 10 minutes and 46 still to go. Matt Richards, the defending champion from last year, who won the title from Lewis Manley by 34 points, is currently leading the way on a 45.723. Ben Brown in second, Luke Bennett, Lewis Manley, runner-up last year, as we now head to the circuit. There is Matt Richards in the number 1 Honda Civic. We're going to see quite a few different makes, as you'll find in the Quick British Touring Car Championship, such as the Honda Civic, the previous model thereof, the previous iteration, the Vauxhall Astra, which will be run by Lewis Manley. There's Ed Sibbald in the very... I think if you put that on Google Maps, Anthony, you could definitely see that from the satellites up above, couldn't you?
Oh, you'd definitely see that. And you can see, even in this qualifying, Sibbald here, he's running on the medium set of compound tyres. Now we change here to Steve Burton. You can see with the purple strips on the tyres, he's running the soft compounded tyres, running slightly wider, and that very vibrant front-end Mercedes A45.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of fluorescent yellow with a bit of black and grey and red Viper stripes down the centre of that A45. We've also got Callum Cripps, who actually finished in the championship last year on 110 points. Obviously, Callum, very well known within sim racing, but also very known through the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series, and he is currently running in the Subaru Levorg. I like that livery. That's a bit of everything, a bit of bright colour, a bit of darkness to sort of contrast it there. There's Ryan Purves in the classic BMW Motorsport colours in the 125 M Sport, currently running P13 at the moment. But Matt Richards starting to look to get his title defence underway in the best way possible ahead of... now, this is qualifying for race 2. We've already had qualifying for race 1, which Matt Richards actually did top, and he did a 45.723. And what's more, Anthony, he set exactly the same lap time in this qualification session as well. So that's pretty good to be nigh on the button with identical lap times in both qualification sessions.
Well, I think this is just qualifying 1
Yes.
that we're in at the moment. We had practice first of all. That's
Yes.
what we were watching first. So I think this is actually the first qualifying,
Ah.
and there isn't a second qualifying. So yeah, it's just this qualifying session that we're.
You see, I'm
watching.
quite new to this Simply Race British Championships, but hey,
we
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Same as touring car rules in real life.
Yes.
And as well, I can forgive you for being confused because, of course, the Clio Cup race that we had literally just before this you had a practice, which I missed. I was in bed. Qualifying 1.
He's admitted
I missed
it now.
'cause was on
I
my
waited
way
for him
from
to.
being in bed.
I waited for you to say that first, Anthony.
And then I managed. So I managed to get to qualifying 2. But yeah, so it was. Yeah, I can forgive you for making the slight.
Well, it's a rookie error. It's a rookie error. But
yeah.
I mean, let's look at the times at the moment. I mean, between the top 3, it's just over a tenth and a half. And here's Sean King in the number 9. Well, it says the number 23 on there, but it says the 19 on the timing screens. He's done a 46.387. That puts him. And just like the touring cars, these cars are incredibly competitive. We've got the ballast system in place for season 3, and you can just see how hard the cars are pushing. But then you look at it from the real life perspective, side by side with BTCC, who are racing at Knock Hill this weekend. You'll have your variants on rear-wheel drive machinery, so it will get a good straightaway pull off of the start as Sean King goes sideways through Graham Hill Bend there. Good commitment and also good control there as well, because these cars, especially if you've got them on the soft tyres, are not going to be easy to control, especially when the tyres drop off in the latter part of any race that we've got here, 3 of which we've got today.
Yeah, definitely. These cars, the rear-wheel drives, so you got obviously the Subaru Levorgs, you've got the BMW 1 Series. Rear-wheel drive, when they start to lose their tyres, as you say, they're a big handful, I would say, definitely, with the rear end stepping out. And especially at Brands, you've got the corners such as Paddock Hill Bend, where a lot of pressure goes on those rear tyres as you exit through the corner. And of course, it's very easy to lose the back end. We've already seen it in practice. We saw Callum Cripps, he was struggling with the Levorg. He was really trying to push it quite a lot.
Sean,
and there we go.
There we go.
On the money.
Yeah, as
King,
you say that.
As you say that, it's a spin for Sean King out of Graham Hill corner, I should say. Graham Hill again, another one. If you run slightly wide onto the AstroTurf area, drivers have to watch out for that for track limits. It is easy. That would have been a track limits.
Yes.
The simulator is very harsh in track limits, especially the exit of Graham Hill and Paddock Hill as well. You've got to watch out for that.
So Matt Willett in the number 48 on the screen, currently increasing the pace here. He's up by over 0.4 of a second in Sector 1, up again by nearly 2.5 tenths in Sector 2, and improves on a 46.590, which keeps him at the moment in P12. We've got 14 out of 15 pods, so we've got nigh on a 15 car capacity grid. So Matt Willett looking to improve as the session is coming to the final third of the 15-minute session here at Brands Hatch Indy. But a track steeped in motorsport folklore. Paddock Hill Bend, I mean, I've spoken with drivers in the BTCC and the DTM who have said that Paddock Hill Bend is the best corner in motorsports. You get that pit of the stomach feeling as the car bottoms out, as it hits the tarmac, and then you go up the Halewood Hill, up into Druids. And we've seen some great moves in the Clios earlier on today. I mean, it was just one of those things where, we're going to have a look at a replay here. And this is Chris Wilson in the 68 heading into Paddock in the Ford Focus. Goes into Paddock, 2 wheels up, and he's gone Knight Rider style, and that thing is going to roll over just by the angle that it's just gone in. End over end. Now, that's not what you want to do in qualification, because if he was fully committed through that corner as well, let's not forget.
And fallen off the face of the earth back to the pit lane. So that's if you want to know a quick way of getting back to the pits in R-Factor 2, do that.
Yes. But Matt Richards, in the meantime, on pole position at the moment, provisional pole with the 45.704. Lewis Manley, who's running the number 2, as he was runner-up last season, 45.782. He was speaking to us both before we went live. Mm-hmm. He says, I think there's a possibility of a 45.6 in this car.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, they're already on the 45.7s at the moment. Matt Richards is only 0.004 of a second off from a 45.6, so I definitely think it's possible. And of course, they're running the the Civic and they're both running the Civics, I believe.
No,
They're not?
Lewis Manley is running
He's
the
in the
traditional.
Vauxhall.
He's in the Vauxhall Astra.
He is in
And
the
what I like about Lewis Manley's livery is it harks back to the days of VXR racing with the traditional
it
white
was-
and red, and it's got the Griffin on both rear doors. So you can't forgive Lewis Manley for that, because that is absolutely brilliant. Here's Ben Brown in the number 22. Running the Camsport Anxiety UK livery, going through Paddock Hill Bend. He's running in the Honda Civic. He's running 5th at the moment on a 45.942, which effectively puts him nearly 2.5 tenths off of the pace that Matt Richards is currently setting. And then you look a bit further down the order. Callum Cripps up to 6th now in this 21 Subaru Levorg, a 46.101. Christian Kelly, Chris Wilson, Ben Willis and Sean King all round out the top 10, covered by just under 6 tenths of a second. And as we've always seen in touring cars when they visit Brands Hatch, qualifying is incredibly crucial here at the 1.929 kilometre circuit.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, there's absolutely nothing between these drivers at the moment. In fact, the top 13 are within a second of each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you go. It's ridiculous. These guys are so closely matched that when the race gets underway, it's all going to be about who can look after their tyres the longest,
Yeah.
who can hold them for the longest. And I know for a fact that Matt Richards and Lewis Manley and Luke Bennett can all look after their tyres really, really well. And, you know, with the pace that they're on, I think we're going to see some fantastic races today.
Indeed. Matt Webb in the number 73 Subaru Levorg GT, coming around Clark Curve and down the Brabham Straight. Up in Sector 2 by about 0.5 tenth as he'll cross the line. Let's see if there's an improvement. Oh, well, 1/100th off of his best lap time so far as he nearly goes Tokyo Drift through Paddock Hill Bend. And again, Paddock Hill, you know, from your experience obviously with the Clios, it is a blind apex. You've got to fully commit when you're nigh on turning that car in and trying to rotate it. And if you get it wrong, it can definitely be to your detriment.
Definitely. Yeah, in the Clios, it was, again, it was a very tough corner that we had out there. And, you know, it's a really fine line of getting it absolutely spot on and getting it completely wrong and losing so much time. You can gain loads and lose loads through that one corner. And, you know, it happens that when the tyres start to go at the end of the race, that's when you start to see the different racing lines, the different braking zones coming into that corner, and as you go through there. And of course, in one of my Clio races, I actually made a huge mistake. There's what we can see here. Unfortunately, the timing tower for qualifying isn't working to its full potential at the moment, where you can only see Matt Richards' pole time at the moment. But there is, of course, the rest of the results that we can see on our laptops in front of us.
Yes, Matt Richards now going even quicker. He's just put in a 45.626, and that has put him 0.125 of a second ahead of Lewis Manley. Luke Bennett here in the MG6 GT, run famously by 888 a few years ago. Obviously, they had the likes of Jason Plato running the MG when it was under the Tesco Momentum fuel sponsorship with KX Energy. So Luke Bennett doing a pretty good job, actually, I must say, in the 101, Anthony, a 45.845. He's down by about 3 tenths cumulatively through sectors 1 and 2.
But, yeah, I mean, look, as he's, I think, trying to take the most shortest line to the start-finish line there, I have to say, Luke Bennett. Like I say, he was champion of the Clios last year around. He's on a slow lap now as he's slowing down for this one. I think he's going to pull the car in, not going to get another lap out of that one. I have to say, his livery, though, if he complains about anyone crashing into him and they come up with the excuses they couldn't see him, I am going to accept that as an excuse, because that livery, he is blended into that circuit very well.
Well, he's done a Knight Rider job there, if I'm very much mistaken. Christian Kelly, who was second in last year's Clio Cup Championship, is actually in this as well in the number 14, and he's rounding out the top 7. He finished 14 points off of Luke Bennett as the checkered flag is out for qualifying. So the 15 minutes done and dusted. Matt Willett not going to improve this time. 46.893, just over 3 tenths off of his best. Ben Willis in the number 85 Honda Civic coming through, and that was definite commitment through Surtees and McLaren through into the tight right-hander that opens up here at Clark Curve. And now let's see, does he pull it into the pits? No. He's going to see if he can gain a little bit of time in Sector 3, but he's down by over 6 tenths in both first and second sectors of 46.490. So Matt Richards, the defending champion, in the number 1, and Lewis Manley will line up on the front row. Christian Kelly, he's now out on his final hot lap in the bright yellow Ford Focus in the number 14, decides to call it a day. But let's just have a look at it. The top 13 out of 14 drivers covered by 0.964, and Matt Woolett, if he'd have found probably at least another 3 to 4 tenths of a second, he could have been at the bottom part of the top 10 and maybe... But one of the biggest things about touring cars, Anthony, is that the midfield. If you're stuck in the mid-pack and you're trying to find ways to get through, it's going to be difficult because you could be the one that profits from all the accidents that happen in front or be one of the ones that's caught up in the melee.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of the tough ones to do. And again, I saw it in the Clio's race. A lot of it is the same. It's if you're caught up in that mid pack, it can be a nightmare to try and break it through. Here's a look at the top 10 from qualifying then, and as you can see, we did see a 45.6, but from Matt Richards, not Lewis Manley.
Yep, who is 0.125 off of the pace in the number 2 Vauxhall Astra. Luke Bennett rounds out the top 3 in the MG, ahead of the Subaru Vorg of Callum Cripps. Matt Webb rounds out the top 5, covered by just over 3 tenths of a second. It was a further 15 thousandths back to Ben Brown in the 22, who is joint leading the standings of Clio Cup Round 1 after the action earlier on today alongside Will Dendy, who's decided to... make hay whilst the sun shines and gets away quickly. Christian Kelly in the number 14 is set. Wilson and Ben Willis ran at the top 10. I mean, Chris Wilson, effectively exactly half a second off of Matt Richards. Ed Sibbald in the 001, start from 11th, ahead of Steve Burton in the 87, Matt Woolett in the 48, and Ryan Purves in the 99. But still a very, very close qualification session there, Anthony, between the top 10.
Yeah, definitely so, and we're going to definitely see an amazingly close race in this one. The touring cars, they've always provided very, very close racing. But yeah, just to see what happens in this one, I'm excited for it. You know, I can't put a finger on it. Looking at the times, because of course you see qualifying, and you think, oh, well, you remember that's qualifying.
Yep.
That's only qualifying. In the race, tyre wear is on. Mm-hmm. They've got to look. I know tyre wear is on in qualifying, but you know it's hot laps. You know, they'll go out, they'll pit, they'll get a new set on, they'll go back out. In the race, however, you don't want to pit.
That's very true, because effectively you've got low fuel as well, so that minimises the... it helps to evolve the track through the rubber that's being laid down ahead of the races. But as they say, it's times for show, points to go, and we are close to getting our first of 3 races. It feels just like a touring car afternoon, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it's going to be a long old day of racing. Of course, we had the Clios earlier on in the morning, which, like I say, I've already admitted to I was very late for.
But hey, you still came through at the end of it.
I just came through. Halfway through Colorado, so I put it on 3rd. I can tell you right now the drivers were not pleased.
It's going to be all elbows out. But we're going to go to a brief break before we get the first of our 3 races here, around 33 laps of the 1.208 mile, 1.929 kilometre circuit here at Brands Hatch. Virtually speaking, with us being here live and direct from Simply Racing Milton Keynes. Don't forget, get involved on social media using the hashtag SRBC, and feel free to put any comments on the YouTube stream on the official Simply Race YouTube channel. We'll be back in just a few moments' time. booth, Anthony.
Driver briefing time is the time where silly questions can be asked, saying, can I cut this corner here if I slightly lift off and do that rule, and all sorts of rubbish that comes out. And if you're one of those drivers, shame on you.
The less said, the better on that one.
The driver. We had a laugh in our Clio one as well, where it was just questions about keeping it civil, and in the driver interviews afterwards, don't swear, and you would always look at a couple of drivers knowing who's the one who's a little bit of a loose tongue while they're out there.
Yes, and I've heard quite a few after post-race press conferences in national and international competition, where when you talk to the drivers, you get a completely different spiel from what you hear from what they actually have to say via the PR line.
Yes, When you say, cool, the mic's turned off now. That's when you want to hear the good stuff. If you are watching on YouTube, please do get your comments in. I have got the YouTube chat up on my laptop screen right in front of me, so get your comments in. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. We have got a comment in. Jacob Money, good luck to Ed and Luke from Positively Racing. I'm sure they'll positively do very well.
Also, before we forget, whilst you're at it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and why not give this video a like whilst you're at it. So,
I'm being told it was awful for my Positively Racing puns, where I think I
there could be more in store over the course of the afternoon. There is plenty of time.
You have not heard anything yet. So.
Anthony Jordan is in full pun mode this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, so just watch out.
I am indeed.
I mean, our broadcast director is saying, well, hopefully someone doesn't punt someone in that case.
Well, there you go.
But there you go. They're getting themselves
back behind this wall.
Yes. So that we can still. He's being told off, not me. But everyone's getting ready in their pods for the first race of 3 here in the Simply Race British Championship Touring Cars Season 3. 3 races here this afternoon. And Anthony, the anticipation is quite literally palpable. And even in sim racing, you get the hair standing on the back of your neck when they start to get ready to go racing.
Definitely. I mean, again, I'll take you back to the Clio race. I was sweating buckets in my sim with nerves trying to get to the end of that race, and these drivers are going to be feeling the same, but they haven't even started yet. Here we go then for the warm-up lap that the drivers are going to go out as we watch Callum Cripps break away. Surprising qualifying. Up into 4th, of course. We weren't expecting that. It looked like he was really struggling, but here's the grid.
So Matt Richards, the defending champion after Season 2, will line up alongside the runner-up last year, Lewis Manley, so running the numbers 1 and 2, respectively. Luke Bennett in the 101 and Callum Cripps ran out row number 2, ahead of Matt Webb in the 73 and Ben Brown in the 22. Christian Kelly in the number 14 will have Sean King alongside in the number 19. We've got Chris Wilson in the 68 and Ben Willis in the 85 rounding out the top 10. Completing the 14-strong grid we have here at Brands Hatch Indy. Ed Sibbald, Steve Burton, then we've also got Matt Woolett and Ryan Purves in the 48 and the 99 respectively. But this is where, just like any touring car race, the drivers will be getting heat into the tyres and the brakes to give themselves that optimum purchase going into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. And let's not forget, the rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive battle has been raging on in touring cars for as long as anyone can remember. And I think if he gets a lightning start, Callum Cripps could get a real good march on the 3 in front.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the tyre compounds throughout the entirety of the grid, everyone has gone for the mediums apart from one driver, Edward Sibbald in the 001 in 11th place. Keep an eye on him. He may cause a bit of a stir-up in the mid-pack.
Yes, as long as he keeps his nose clean and keeps out of trouble. That is the key point. As soon as everything goes lights out and off and away, it is all for themselves. And there's a total of 18 races over the 6 rounds, which concludes at Brands Hatch Grand Prix on the 20th of December. And we will have live streaming coverage all the way through this season. So they're all starting to line up in their respective grid positions. And once they are ready, we will, from our perspective, we'll be able to hear when they're foot on the throttle at the optimum rev range, ready to launch it, but it's not easy, especially with the camera on the right-hand side here.
Yeah, definitely. Keep an eye out for Callum Cripps on the outside line there, going into the start. The rear-wheel drive Subaru as lights out, and away we go here at Brands Indy, and it's side-by-side for the front two, Manley and Richards.
Well, Manley has got a real good run going towards the outside as it's nearly 3 abreast going into Paddock Hill for the first time. Callum Cripps drops behind Webb in the 73 on the run up the Hailwood Hill up to Druids, but Manley gets the initial advantage over Richards. So this battle could rage on over the next 6 rounds as we go down the hill into Graham Hill Bend. Bennett looking very good in the MG. He's keeping his nose clean at the moment as Webb and Cripps are side by side. Well, they were for a moment, as it looks like King might be getting through. Well, Kelly gets through up into 7th position, changes up and down the order. Willett up into 12th past Steve Burton as Manley absolutely holding on there, going through Clark Curve for the first time. Richards quickly on the back bumper of the Vauxhall Astra, but I must be honest, Luke Bennett, our Clio Cup champion from last year, really giving the front two, the 2 championship protagonists from last year, a run for their money.
Definitely so. Manley goes defensive into turn 1, but Richards round the outside here at Paddock. He's got the wrong line here for Druids, though, as they heavy braking down into second gear. Manley holding onto that inside line, having to force Richards off. Can he hold it here? Yes, he can, but has Richards got the inside line here for Graham Hill Bend? He tries to keep his nose down the inside. Thank you very much. I'll take that. That is how we get that done, and Manley slots back into second place and now under pressure from Bennett. Bennett's got the inside line here. Are we going to see another drop position for Manley? We are. So that in one lap, Manley losing 2 positions, and now he's got Cripps to worry about.
And not just that, you've also got Webb and Brown battling away over 5th and 6th position. Well, Brown has actually got past Callum Cripps, who's now quickly coming under fire from Matt Webb as the 2 Subarus exchange places going into Paddock Hill Bend. There was a little bit of nigh-on contact there between the 2 Subarus, but they managed to keep it through. Christian Kelly in the number 14 Ford Focus from Camsport not too far behind us. Callum Cripps goes grass tracking on the inside of Druids and manages to keep Webb to one side, but Webb will have the inside run coming into Graham Hill Bend, and nicely done from Webb at that particular moment. Keeps P5 at the moment as they've come through the Cooper Straight into the left, right at Surtees and McLaren. And we're now looking at the number 22 of Cam Sports, Brown. So let's have a look at the replay here. You can just see he's closing up on... Now, this is through... a little bit of a touch there from Webb on the back bumper of Brown, who then has a little bit of contact with Cripps. It unsettles the back end of the Subaru. Cripps goes wide, and then Webb trying to thread the eye of the needle between the two, but then still keeps on the inside line through onto the Brabham straightaway past Callum Cripps. So Cripps has a little bit of work to do now.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm not sure how race control are going to take that one. Of course, it's touring cars. It's a contact sport, isn't it? And it was only a small bit of contact, but it caused a great little scrap, didn't it, between the two?
It did. Air temperature currently at the moment, 16 degrees Celsius is now. Matt Richards is having to battle away with the 101 of Luke Bennett in the stealthily clad Knight Rider style. All it needs is a scanner on the front, and you've got the modern day equivalent of Knight Rider, and you probably have to call Luke Bennett Michael Knight after that one, but he's hustling. He's keeping within striking distance of Richards. Now, Richards, we know, is very, very well versed. A very good driver in his own right. He recently picked up the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge overall title in the McLaren 720S GT3, but now he goes to front-wheel drive, touring cars, and I had a good chat with him, and he said, this is going to be a bit more focused. You know, it's a very different driving style going from a sports car into a touring car.
Yeah, definitely. We'll look a little further back on the grid. This is back in 8th place, Sean King, and the number 19. It says 19, but running a 23 on the car, so we'll blame Sean for that one as they go through. But yeah, again, you're starting to see this train effect now. We saw this earlier on in the Clios. I was bound to see it again. Again, it's drivers looking after tyres. They don't want to attack yet. They just want to get through these first few laps. It's a 32-lap race.
Especially when the majority of them, all bar one, which is Ed Sibbald, who's now up into 10th place on the softs. So everyone else is running the yellow sidewall medium tyres here, as Ryan Purves still circulating. He's 13.5 seconds off of the leader down in 14th position, but Matt Richards starting to pull away. He's gone purple in sector number 1 on a 17.831, but Matt Webb in 5th place is the fastest driver out there in terms of the fastest lap of the race on a 46.030. We now switch back to Lewis Manley in the number 2 Vauxhall Astra, who has got Ben Brown and also Matt Webb trying to close down on the number 2 Vauxhall Astra as they go through into Paddock Hill Bend.
definitely. Ben Brown has had a cracking start to this race. He's up 2 positions from his original qualifying spot, so he's had a great start for that one. Obviously, he did well in the clears as well, so expecting to see a repeat in this. And of course, he's got Lewis Manley in front. Lewis, an incredibly quick driver in sim racing and in karting as well.
Yes.
He's incredibly quick and 4 wheels in many different aspects. And seeing him race here, he's struggling to keep up with the front two. These two, Richards and Bennett, they have broken away slightly, but then this is the battle for the last spot on the podium. And I know firsthand the pressure that is on Manley's shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, normally Lewis Manley, multi-time Formula Fast champion, obviously also based here in Milton Keynes, so we have to give those guys a shout out. He's been racing in the British Rental Kart Championship over a number of years. Now we're on board with Ben Brown, as you can see just how committed Lewis Manley is coming through Paddock Hill Bend. Now up the Halewood Hill, up towards Druids. And it's only, you can just see how Ben Brown is able to use Lewis Manley as a marker, so to speak, because Manley will brake in a particular way, but he's got no one assisting him at the front of this train. So Brown is able to use that sort of strategic advantage, if you will, to close up the gap, especially when he gets into the slipstream down both the Cooper and the Brabham straightaways. But I wouldn't count out Matt Webb in the 73. He's not too far behind. Here he is on board on the Subaru Levorg. And they come out of Clark Curve, heading their way down the Brabham straightaway, pushing close to, that's over 130 miles an hour in real-time speed. Down a couple of gears, probably through from 6th to 4th. That's a run wide from Richards, and Bennett manages to get the lead. So Richards, I think, went a bit too overcommitted into Paddock Hill Bend, so the MG now leads the way.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier on about Paddock Hill. Later on into the race, the racing lines start to differ, and again, there is such a fine line of getting it right or wrong, and here's how it happened. Yeah, there you go. Getting it absolutely wrong there. Yeah,
managing to keep the throttle full to the floor going through the gravel on Paddock Hill Bend, because you can do that and it will do one or two things. Either you keep your foot stuck in, or you're going to just have to sort of slow down and come back onto the racing line, but that's what no one wants to do. And here is... Right, okay, let's have a look again. Richards... 2 wheels up in the air, and that because of the fact that the lateral sidewall traction, is basically, it looks like he's trying to do a stunt driver's efforts here in the Simply Race British Championships.
He's looking after his right tyres.
Yes, because effectively those are the ones that are being compromised most during this race, because effectively you've got Paddock Hill Bend, you've got Druids, both right-handers. You get a little bit of a breather with Graham Hill, and then it's Surtees, but then you've got quick lateral transfer into McLaren and into Clark Curve. But Richards quickly back on the pace once again. But Luke Bennett last time around did a 46.757, as Matt Webb, again, he's done a 46.030. And when you look at what the qualifying times were, Matt Richards did a 45.626. And that's not that far away from the actual outright qualifying that we had for this race.
Yeah, definitely. These guys are pushing it, but again, just holding back slightly. You can see the battle there heating up in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's Matt Webb and Ben Brown still scrapping away a little further down the road, 4th and 5th place. As on the main screen, still the lead battle rages on. Bennett and Richards. Richards, again, just seems to be... I think he is struggling a bit with that car. Looks like Bennett's got the MG dialed in well. Mm-hmm. He's just got it hooked into all the corners, and he's cracking through. I'm not sure what's happening to his tyres, though, at this rate. That's going to be an important one to keep an eye on as the race progresses on. It's when you get to around lap 20, that's when you see who's actually looked after their tyres and who hasn't.
Well, I think in some respects the rear-wheel drives will have a bit more of an advantage, as we always see. They are lightning quick off the start, but then they get into a bit of a rhythm, and Matt Webb has just, like I say, he's just done a 46.030, as he's now having Callum Cripps has just gone up the inside of him, I think, through Druids, and has now taken 5th position, the 21. So Callum Cripps, again, very well specialised with NASCAR Euro Wheeling Series. Those are hefty brutes, V8 powered, rear-wheel drive. So Callum Cripps is, I think, in a bit of a good element here, because he'll know how these tyres are working. And the biggest key point here, Anthony, one of the biggest things we haven't talked about is front-wheel drive machinery. You're getting all the torque, you're getting all the steering through the front axle. With the rear-wheel drives, you get the best of both worlds. And plus also, the Subaru Levorgs tend to, in terms of their sort of weight distribution, are a little bit more planted than those other cars around them.
Yeah, indeed. And we just, as we look here to the race lead, again, Richards looking down the inside of Bennett here. He's side by side with Bennett. Apparently, Bennett made the mistake. The same corner, I believe, that Richards did. So there you go. Drivers struggling with paddock hill. It is a difficult corner, and even the best of the best, they can't get it right. We go on board front bonnet cam with Richards just to see where he's going to poke that nose in. Looks down the inside here as they exit onto clearways, but then it's back onto the start-finish straight. Can't get it done this time around. Keep a very close eye on this one, folks.
So, leaders come across the start-finish line to complete lap number 14 of 32, so 18 still to go. Battle still raging on, and Callum Cripps in the meantime is looking menacing on the back bumper of the Honda Civic 22 of Ben Brown, as Richards going towards the outside trying to get the switch back, possibly. And I don't think he'll do it through Druids. If he gets a good run coming down into Graham Hill Bend, he'll get a good run coming onto the Cooper Straight. So just behind, so Lewis Manley is leading third, so he's third. Fourth is Brown, fifth is Cripps, and sixth is Webb. So four-way scrap for third place, but the leader's still nigh on giving no... I mean, look at the lap times on them, Anthony. 47.372 for Bennett, 47.313 for Richards. And now the pace is showing the signs of the degradation, because when we had drivers setting 46-second lap times, we've had that from third to fifth. So Manley did a 46.9, I think it was. Cripps, he's just done a 47.1. So these two at the front are starting to break away. And I think it's about who is, when you're doing a 32-lap race, the mental, the physical fatigue goes into it, because it's not easy. These guys are on Thrustmaster equipment with force feedback, direct drive. It is not easy because you're battling all the way through every single corner. So your arms, your shoulders, your upper torso, your core is what's really being worked hard. And with the mental calculations that you've got to have at the same time, that's also a key point. We go to another replay here, and this is Matt Webb behind Callum Cripps going through Graham Hill Bend. As Webb has dropped all the way down to 10th position, so he's come out, he's gone pretty much all four wheels onto the AstroTurf just off the curbing, and it's spun the Levorg. That was very, very lucky indeed.
It was, yeah. The car rotating back onto the track. It was lucky he managed to just get away off the racing line nice and quick. So, yeah, disaster. And you could see that happening before it even happened. You could see his turning point was a little bit later than Cripps's, and you could just see the car washing out wide. So, yeah, big shame for Webb there, Matt Webb. Here's Ben Brown, though. Fourth place, holding off Cripps.
Yep.
And trying to still close that gap to Manley.
Yeah, but you can just see that as Callum Cripps just tried putting the power down through Clark Curve, the back end spooled up a little bit on the rear tyres and kicked the Subaru to the left-hand side on the back axle, as Bennett and Richards pretty much taking the same amount of curb on the entrance and the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. But again, Richards now using Luke Bennett as the yardstick. And it's quite good to see that the Clio Cup champion from last year battling away with the defending champion from Touring Cars last year. And this could be another nice dynamic for the 2020 season.
Yeah, definitely. More support coming in on the stream. Kai Jackson says, keep the defence on, Luke. So, yeah, definitely so. It's a hard-fought race. There's still quite a few laps to go. We're on 17 of 32 at the moment. We'll cross the line to start lap 18. But again, the gap between them, 0.3 of a second. It's not opening, it's not closing. It's just staying static at the moment, as I think they've had a bit of a battle. They've used a bit of those tyres.
Yep.
Now they're going to calm it down, cool the temps down, and they're going to go for a scrap later on. As there you can see Cripps trying to poke his nose down the inside, and we saw him do that earlier on in the race with Matt Webb. He went for a gap that, to be honest, I didn't think was there, but he made it.
Yes.
Cripps made that gap there.
And now the headlights are ablaze on the Subaru Levorg, trying to put the frighteners on Ben Brown as they go through Surtees into the right at McLaren. Cripps takes a bit more curb there, as now they're going to try and power out of Clark Curve and down the Brabham Straightaway. Looks like Callum Cripps this time has got it a bit more measured, but he's not going to be alongside quite yet. He goes into the toe of the 22 Honda Civic.
Flashing the headlights.
Yep, and tries to go, looks to the inside, gets up the inside of the 22 Honda and takes fourth position. Nice work there by Callum Cripps in the 21 Subaru.
Yeah, the Subaru just looks a little bit more planted around some of these corners than the front-wheel drive's Honda Civic as they go through. But of course, yeah, the front-wheel drives, it is all at the front, isn't it? It's really difficult to get the temperature in the rear of the tyres. You know, compared to the rear-wheel drive. So you've got the temperature in the rears and the fronts. It likes to go through. Here's a replay of the front of the grid. This is Matt Richards running again slightly wide. You can see those tyres digging into the gravel, and that just sucked him wide. Almost clips the barrier on the outside. Manages to avoid that. And that's given a little bit of breathing space now to Bennett. Nearly a second gap between those two.
Yeah, around about 9/10 of a second. We'll make that over a second now as they make their way through onto Paddock Hill Bend. Onto lap 20 of 32. 20 in the books, 12 to go as Callum Cripps now trying to chase down last year's runner-up in the Simply Race British Championships for touring cars, Lewis Manley in the number 2 Vauxhall Astra. Down the hill into Graham Hill Bend, through the left-hander. Nice tight apex is taken by the drivers in 3rd and 4th position. And again, Callum Cripps with the headlights flashing away like a good one.
Yes. Now, it wasn't a rapid sort of flash, like saying, oh, I'm right here, you know, watch out. It looked kind of more like a slow flash. Now, that sounds wrong when you say it.
It sounds like your smartphone has decided to go on a different setting that you'd actually put it onto, for instance.
I feel what Cripps is trying to say here is, I'm not going to try and overtake you. Let's try and work together now to close that, bridge that gap to Bennett and Richards. They're only 2 seconds behind him. So, again, it could happen. We're on 21 and 32. The laps are slowly closing away, but they can see Richards. They can see him. He's only there.
Yeah,
so,
they're literally, as we get this fantastic camera shot on the right front corner of the MG from Luke Bennett. Callum Cripps, in the meantime, is actually the fastest out of the top 4. He's done a 46.682, and that was nearly 2 tenths quicker than leader Luke Bennett, who did a 46.875, as we now go on to lap number 22 out of 32 here, as Cripps, I think that Subaru is coming alive. He's kept those tyres well and truly maintained. He's had, as I said, he's had plenty of experience both in sim racing and also real-life driving to know how a rear-wheel drive car will act accordingly as he tries to go around the outside of Manley through Druids. That could have happened if he kept it planted, but the back end started to break away a little bit towards the left-hand side, and this is going to allow the likes of Ben Brown, Christian Kelly, who's now up into 6th position, as I think someone's just had a bit of a moment there. I just heard a
Well, it was definitely Sean King, because I only know one driver who swears like that, and that's Sean King. So,
and unfortunately that's not broadcastable, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
But Sean King rounding out the top 9 positions. Ed Sibbald, the only driver on soft tyres, still rounding out the top 10. Callum Cripps at the moment, with 9 laps to go still on the books. He's really looking racy here, and down through the hill, he's got a good run on Lewis Manley. He's got the inside run going up towards Druids, and neatly up the inside goes the 21, but Manley trying the switchback. Oh, a little bit of panel bashing there. Callum Cripps goes sideways coming out of Druids, but manages to keep it ahead of Ben Brown in the 22 Honda Civic. Oh, that was close.
Yeah, now, I mean, Callum's completely debunked my theory of let's work together, so thanks for that, Callum. Here's a replay of a little further back. This is Sean King. This is why the profanity came out of Sean King's mouth, and there you can see runs wide, gets on the power, and says hello to the barrier, gives him a little peck on the cheek.
Yes, hit the barrier on the left-hand side. Whoops. There's been a bit of a development because Sean King, now up into 7th, past Chris Wilson and Matt Webb. I'm wondering if those two have had a little bit of a coming together, so that's allowed the BMW to go up 2 places in the running order. But Callum Cripps still trying to force the issue here with Lewis Manley. Lewis Manley said, well, hopefully have a good race 1. Well, at the moment, he's starting things off in the right way by starting in the top 3 and also being in the top 3, but it just depends, not if, it's when Callum Cripps decides to go for it full bore.
There's a bit of carnage in the midfield between Sibbald, Wilson and Willis. I can hear the shouting going on in the background. I can't see what's going on, but here's a replay. This potentially might explain what happened. So Webb looks like he's just lost the back end a bit there. Yeah, we've got the Ford Focus just behind.
That's Chris Wilson in the 68.
It is, just to see where he's going to go. Is he going to try and send it down the inside here? Looks like he did. The gap was there, but it was closing, and yeah, that's suboptimal.
Yeah, and that was going through into McLaren's and Clark curve there as Callum Cripps quickly back on the attacking train on Lewis Manley. And now, watch out for it, ladies and gentlemen, because Ben Brown is now being joined by Christian Kelly. So we have, in this 4-car train, we have Vauxhall leading ahead of Subaru as Callum Cripps tries to be a curb opportunist there, going through into the exit of Surtees into McLaren. And then got the Honda of Ben Brown in the 22 and Christian Kelly in the number 14 Ford Focus. And this is going to wage all the way through to the checkered flag. Meantime, the two leaders now. Luke Bennett has pulled a 1.7 second gap. Oh, Cripps sideways through Paddock Hill Bend, and he hung on for dear life.
Yeah.
But that was a good catch there.
Held on to that one, and of course when the back starts to break away in a rear-wheel drive car, it's a lot harder to get it back than from a front-wheel drive car. You can just plant it with a front-wheel drive, but yeah, with the Subarus and the BMWs, it's a lot harder. We go on board with Ben Brown in 5th place. Front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. I feel like the rear-wheel drive's got the slight edge in the latter part of the race because they've managed to look after their tyres a lot more. Now they're coming alive, and now they're starting to attack, which is why we're seeing Cripps again. Just looks like he's a little bit more controlled. See how much he broke away there out of the final corner.
So we now see that Cripps is definitely really getting up close and personal to Manley, as you can just see how hard he's pushing that Subaru up the hill into Druids. Manley closes the door nice and tightly there in the number 2 Vauxhall Astra as they go down the hill towards the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. And this, I think, is probably going to be the closest battle that we've got at the moment, but with Ben Brown not too far behind in the number 22 Honda Civic, I think it is pretty much game on here for 3rd place.
Oh, definitely so. I'm getting deja vu flashes in my brain here from my Clio race 2, and yes, I know exactly what it feels like. Here's the battle for 3rd. It's Manley, Cripps, Brown and Kelly. Half a second between the 4 of them, and again, Manley goes defensive here on the inside towards Paddock Hill Bend. Now Cripps is going to look to the outside. He's going to go for the switchback here. Definitely. Has he slightly outbraked himself here, or has he got the power that he can get on here up the hill? He looks again to the inside again. Manley holds it right to the apex. He's going to park it on the apex here. Gets a little bit of a tap there from Cripps. Gets forced out wide, and Cripps is going to take that position. I can hear Manley frustrated in the background at that one.
Yeah, he's now down into P4, but he's kept ahead of Ben Brown and Christian Kelly, as Kelly nearly had an opportunity to get past the 22 Honda for position through Graham Hill Bend. But I think I've mentioned it in the Clio Cups, and it's very much the same with the touring cars, Anthony, is that it's one thing to be the one that is being chased because you've got to do all the hard work. Now Lewis Manley will have the bee in his bonnet. He'll have the motivation to push forward. Okay, Cripps has started to pull away slightly on now what is now lap number 29 out of 32. But let's not forget, the Astra, in its own right, is still a very capable car.
A capable car, but are the tyres capable at this stage of the race?
Yes, exactly. The degradation over time is Matt Webb trying to close on Sean King in the BMW just up ahead as they go up the Harewood Hill up in towards Druids. Nice tight apex is taken by the pair of them, battling over 8th position. And Webb looking to try and get a good run coming out of Druids and into Graham Hill, but that particular time looked like King was very much wise to that one. So we've just had a message from Race Control reference Cripps' move on Manley, and Race Control just deemed that as a fair manoeuvre, didn't they?
Yeah. Again, it's touring cars under braking. You're going to see the concertina effect. You're going to see a little bit of front-to-rear contact. Nothing malicious, but just enough to push that car out. And, of course, the front-wheel drive cars, I know, again, from experience, that they like to wash out here, as we can see there. Ben Brown, as I say it happens, getting washed out there at Druids, but side by side with
Christian Kelly,
in that very vibrant yellow Ford Focus as they go through. They're still scrapping away. This is, of course, the battle for 4th place. Are we going to see a lunge down the inside? No, we're not. So we can't get it done this time around.
Yeah, so Ben Brown still running out the top 5. Lewis Manley starting to break away as Matt Webb now finally gets past the number 19 of Sean King. Ed Sibbald, the only soft tyre shod car, is keeping with them. So it looks like he's kept his tyres a little bit of conservation there, and now he looks to be getting a little bit closer. He's just on a 47.373, and Sean King had an absolute howler on that lap of 48.656. It's all sideways for Webb through Paddock Hill Bend. King towards the outside, powers past, and retakes the position.
Yeah, nicely done there. Taking a brief moment of relief, getting past Webb. Nice, quick and easy. That's what we like to see. Looking at the stream, Jack Ashton is joining us. Welcome, Jack, with his comment. Luke is a beast. Yes, he is. He's nearly 2 seconds adrift from Matt Richards on the final lap, so we should probably head to the race leader.
Indeed. So this battle for 7th, 8th and 9th still raging on. It looks like there's been a couple of penalties issued for Ben Brown, and also we've got one for Matt Willett, as there is the leader, Luke Bennett, coming down the hill from Druids for the final time. into the left-hander at Graham Hill before he heads on to the Cooper Straight, before the left-right at Surtees and McLaren, before one final corner in the form of Clark Curve. Still King battling away with Webb, which is effectively now for what is sixth position as a result of Ben Brown serving a penalty. But round the final corner to win the first of 3 races here at the opening round of the Simply Race British Championships for touring cars. It is the 101 of the MG of Luke Bennett, winning by over 2.1 seconds ahead of Matt Richards, as Callum Cripps will take third, Lewis Manley will take fourth, Christian Kelly will take fifth, but Sean King will be the victor of this little intra rear-wheel drive battle as BMW, Best, Subaru, 6th and 7th respectively. Ed Sibbald in the end took 8th place, as here is Steve Burton in the brightly coloured yellow, red, grey and black Mercedes A45 coming across the line to finish in 11th position. So looked like that Ben Willis and Ben Brown rounded out the top 10. Steve Burton in 11th, Ryan Purves in the 99 will finish in 12th place. And he's just come through in the BMW. Chris Wilson in the 68 was 13th with Matt Willett. I think his race finished with 3 laps still to go. But first things first, first blood.
Yes.
Luke Bennett in the 101. Matt Richards, the defending champion, still getting off to a strong start in second place. Good showing from Callum Cripps, but also the battle between him and Lewis Manley was something, a treat to behold, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. There was some great battles all the way through on that one. Again, more comments coming in. Kai Jackson, absolute relentless race. Luke, well done. And again, yeah, it was a fantastic race from Luke. He held on to that one very well at the front with the great little scraps with Matt Richards. And again, it just shows that both drivers in that did make mistakes at the front. Both drivers aren't, impermeable to mistakes. They happen.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to now have a chat with the top 3, but we'll quickly run through the order. Luke Bennett took the win ahead of Matt Richards, Callum Cripps in third, Lewis Manley in fourth, Christian Kelly rounding out the top 5 ahead of Sean King, Matt Webb, Ed Sibbald, Ben Willis and Ben Brown rounding out the top 10 ahead of Steve Burton, Ryan Purves and Chris Wilson. So I'm now going to head down to the virtual interview booth here at Simply Race to speak to our top 3. So first things first, Luke Bennett, that was a great battle between you and Matt Richards pretty much from the word go. Nice to start your touring car exploits in the Simply Race British Championships with a win.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting such a good result from the first round. I come into the championship not knowing whether I was going to do the full championship, but to come away with a win, and especially against someone like Matt Richards and Lewis Manley is great.
Yeah, so obviously, using the medium tyres, how were they handling on the MG? Because I think there were mistakes from both yourself and Matt in the latter stages, in the last 10 laps or so. How were they faring on the MG?
They felt pretty good, to be fair. I think my driving style sort of suits the bad tyres, or tyre wear, sorry. So I still had quite a lot of tyre left at the end, and I was just speaking to Matt then. He didn't have so much, so that's I think that's why I pulled away maybe a little bit at the end.
Okay, well, Luke Bennett, our winner of race 1 out of 3 here. Congratulations. Good luck for race 2.
Thank you.
Next up, we speak to our defending champion, the number 1 of Matt Richards. Matt, both Anthony and myself saw a couple of big moments when you were fully committed going into Paddock Hill Bend and the Honda drifted wide. How are the tyres evolving over the course of the race? Because obviously Luke said his driving style coped with it well. How are the Hondas doing?
I think the shorter wheelbase around this track is maybe hindering us a little bit in some of the braking zones. Just trying to get the back end to move around a little bit, and I'm forced to use a little bit more lock on the entries. Trying to clip curbs, get the car to hook in a little bit, and that's what sent me off in turn 1. How I didn't go over, I'm not sure. So yeah, a couple of runs through the gravel and a couple of little hiccups into corners. That cooked that front left a little bit. So hopefully we can adapt to that a little bit and push Luke in race 2. I think I got a bit of a challenge on here.
I think you have, considering you're the one with the bullseye on the back of the Honda Civic's rear bumper, having the number 1. But good luck for race 2, Matt. All the very best.
Thank you very much.
Last but by no means least, Callum Cripps in the number 21 Subaru Levorg. Callum, great start off of the line, but obviously you dropped a few places, started fighting with Lewis for P3, but eventually came out on top. Just tell us how the Subaru evolved over the course of the race.
Yeah, it went really, really well. To be fair, I think the tyres definitely, suit the end of the race more than the front wheel drive cars. Yeah, fell back at the start, sat behind Matt Webb for a bit, who was in the other Subaru, and unfortunately lost it. But yeah, had some really good battles, really, really clean. I got forced off a few times at Druids on the outside with Lewis, but it happens. So I'm not too worried because I got past him eventually. But yeah, it was at the end of the race. I was closing to the top guys by about half a second a lap, so I'm looking confident.
Yeah, fair enough. Callum, all the very best of luck for race 2 this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
So, Anthony, race 1 is in the books for touring cars. We get underway in around about, I think it's about 10 minutes time for race 2. Obviously, Luke Bennett and Matt Richards talked very, very extensively about how their tyres were evolving, obviously with the degradation, but it seemed that Luke Bennett had the measure because obviously going from Clio's into a front-wheel drive touring car seems to have given him a little bit more of impetus to try and strike whilst the iron's hot, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that. So, of course, with the 2 races left to go, and now the cards are on the table. You know, everyone can see what people are doing. I don't think anyone's got anything hidden anymore because that was a very close race. You can see that Manley is struggling in the latter part of the races with the tyres. You can see that Cripps is advancing at the latter race with the tyres. So that's going to change the strategy at the start of race 2. And I would just want to see another head-to-head between Bennett and Richards again because I think it's all going to happen.
I think one of the other things that we now have to, because effectively Success Ballast is part of the touring car side of the Simply Race British Championships. So we're going to see a completely different dynamic for race. You know, the drivers that have been more successful, obviously Luke Bennett and Matt Richards, are going to have pretty much the majority of the maximum amount of ballast, with Luke Richards carrying a lot of kilos on that MG. This is where it really gets interesting because the drivers, again, will have to compensate with their driving styles, work around the problems that the Success Ballast will give them.
Yeah, definitely. Success Ballast is one of the main things that I think spectators love about the touring cars, and that is purely because it promotes close racing. It definitely does. And, of course, the driving styles definitely are going to change. There's going to be a little bit of, I think, argy-bargy at the front. I think, personally, it's going to help the rear-wheel drive cars close into that front. I feel like the drivers at the front are going to struggle a lot more with those tyres because now they're carrying a lot more weight on board. They've got to slow down a little bit earlier. They're going to be a little bit harder on the tyres through Druids and the final corner clearways through Surtees and everything like that. So I feel it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be a challenge in this next race, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
So in about 10 minutes' time, we will be back for race 2 of the third season of the Simply Race British Championships for touring cars. We'll be back in just a few moments' time. So, race 2 about to get underway here. Another 32 laps of touring car action. And one of the biggest things now is that we have success ballast to deal with. So Luke Bennett will have the maximum amount of weight on the MG as they now get underway for the formation lap ahead of 32 laps of racing. Here's the grid for race 2 of the first round of the season. Luke Bennett will start on pole position in the 101 MG alongside the number 1 of Matt Richards in the Honda. Callum Cripps in the 21 Subaru will have the number 2 Astra of Lewis Manley alongside. Christian Kelly will start from 5th place in the number 14 Ford Focus ahead of the number 19 BMW of Sean King. Matt Webb in the 73 Subaru will have the number 001 Astra of Ed Sibbald alongside. Rounding out the top 10, it's Ben Willis in the 85 and Ben Brown in the 22. Steve Burton will start in 11th in the 87. Ryan Purves in the 99 BMW will round out the top 12, and completing the grid will be Chris Wilson in the 68 and Matt Willett in the 22 Astra down at the bottom of the grid. But Anthony, the success ballast, this is a completely different kettle of fish. And I had a quick chat with Matt Richards and he said, because you've got no ballast on these cars, it was difficult to rotate the cars into the corners. This is where the centre of gravity really changes the dynamic, but also the tyre conservation goes up another further level for race 2.
Yeah, now, of course, I've not driven these cars with success ballast before, so I can't talk of how they handle. Obviously, I'll take Matt Richards' word for it. So maybe we'll see a very different story in this one. Maybe we'll just see, again, the front-wheel drives break away and the rears won't be able to catch up. Maybe the rear-wheel drives are going to struggle more with the success ballast.
Well, it depends, because normally the Subaru Levorg, when it was running in the Touring Car Championship in real life, was very much a tour de force, low centre of gravity, and it really handled the success ballast well. So, if I'm honest here, Callum Cripps could possibly, if he gets a good start like he did on race 1, he could get away into the lead if he gets between both Bennett and Richards, but they're not going to make it easy for him.
Oh, no. No, of course they're not. This is Bennett and Richards we're talking about here. They're not going to make it easy at all, are they?
Revs rise. Ladies and gentlemen, we are off and away for race 2. Bit of wheel spin there, bit of 11s from Matt Richards as Callum Cripps. Oh my goodness me, Sean King has absolutely shot up the order and he's up the inside of Lewis Manley towards the outside of Callum Cripps, who manages to keep on 3rd position. But Lewis Manley now being thrown to the wolves, so to speak, after that 3-wide moment going into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. But Luke Bennett again in the MG, just starting to pull away. He's already got nearly a 7/10 of a second advantage, make that 8/10 over Matt Richards, as now it's all kicking off behind. Callum Cripps runs wide, King runs wide, and there's Matt Webb in the 73 going alongside the BMW into Surtees and McLaren. Oh, gets round the outside, and here comes Ben Brown in the midst of things, trying to get the switch back here. But Lewis Manley now drops behind Matt Webb in the 73 Subaru. So the number 2, the runner-up from last year, down into 5th place.
Yeah, definitely an interesting start from the front there. Not actually what I was expecting. As you can see, again, that Honda Civic diving down the inside of Ben Brown, or Ben Brown being the person diving down the inside of Sean King. As we move back to the front now, this is Webb. He's in a Cripps and Manley sandwich at the moment. He's again switching back to Chris Wilson in 9th place in the 68 Ford Focus, the very striking Cam Sport pink, black, white.
With the words "Just send it" in the vein of Daniel Ricciardo there on the side of that Ford Focus, ahead of Positively Racing's Ed Sibbald, one of the, I think, the brightest. I think if you had a version of a touring car Technicolor Dreamcoat equivalent, I think Ed Sibbald definitely wins the prize on that one.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. But they go through on lap 3 now already. Time has flown by. Another 32-lap race on this one as we still watch here. Chris Wilson look to the inside now of Christian Kelly. Down the inside, he's got his nose in, and he's going to hold that inside line through Druids. He's on the outside line here for Graham Hill, and he gets through and holds on to that one. So a pretty close battle still in this mid-pack. Yeah,
looks like just a little bit further adrift. You've got the number 68 of, well, you've got Chris Wilson here trying to go up the sorry, my apologies there. That is the 68 of Chris Wilson trying to go past Christian Kelly as the two focuses side by side going down the Brabham Straight. And the good thing is that Wilson will get the inside run going into Paddock Hill Bend. Oh, bit of door rubbing there. Oh, 2 wheels up in the air, and Wilson goes wide off of Paddock Hill Bend, and that allows Sibbald to get through. But in the meantime, both Subarus starting to now pull away from Lewis Manley. Richards is keeping within striking distance. He's gone purple in sector 1 on a 17.862. But Luke Bennett in that MG, he won race 1. He's now he's close to about half a second or so in front of Matt Richards, who looks to be closing. But Richards, most importantly, on that last lap was a tenth of a second slower.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see again on the comments section, we've got comments coming in. Emily Wilson watching, the partner of Chris Wilson. Emily, don't watch. You don't want to just see what just happened there with Chris, with his send it stickers, absolutely sending it down the inside and running wide. If you're driving on the road from Scotland and you see a woman swearing profusely in a car, that's Emily.
Hopefully parks in a lay-by.
Parks in a lay-by. If you see someone furious in a car, that will be her.
So lap number 6 of 32 will be on to the conclusion of lap 5 out of 32 here for race 2 of the as Ed Sibbald is looking to move forward and try and battle with Christian Kelly, but the Ford Focus, the number 14, has around about a 7/10 of a second advantage as they come across the line. Now onto lap number 6 as we go on board with the number 73 of Matt Webb up through 5th. They're going to brake all the way down to 2nd to around about 50 miles an hour. Coming through the apex, down the hill into Graham Hill Bend up to 4th. Down to 3rd for Graham Hill, around about 70 miles an hour. Powering through the gears up to 4th, hit the rev limiter up to 5th. Through into the left at Surtees, 180 kilometres an hour nigh on, as you can just see how hard Matt Webb is wrestling with the wheel of this Subaru Levorg as they come through. Oh, nearly a bit of drift there to the left-hand side, but he corrects that nicely. Up to 5th, 180 kilometres an hour. So they're going to be pushing nearly 140 miles an hour on the straight into Paddock Hill Bend, down from 6th around 210, down to 4th at 150 kilometres an hour. But look at the commitment from Matt Webb there. He is not wanting to let Callum Cripps get away.
No, definitely not. You can see there the back of the car stepping out. And again, we saw this in practice. I was definitely watching it. Matt Webb's got a little bit more of an aggressive driving style than Callum out there. And he's starting to see it there. Callum looks smooth out of the corners. Webb fighting that car, the back end stepping out. But again, it does look slightly quicker, but over a long period of time, is it going to affect the tyres? I'm going to say probably yes, as we cut back one more space to 5th. And this is Lewis Manley, who's under pressure again from Ben Brown.
Now, Ben Brown did have a drive-through penalty at the tail end of the first race, which put him 10th. So he's looking to have a bit of redemption here in race number 2, as both he and Manley negotiate Paddock Hill Bend up the Halewood Hill up towards the right-hand hairpin at Druids. Nice tight apex there from Manley with the well-known and well-versed Vauxhall Griffin on both sides, not just on the front and rear badging, but on both sides of that fantastic hark back to the old VXR racing days in the British Touring Car Championship.
Yeah, very nice little livery Manley's got on there. Again, the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that's an onboard shot from Matt Webb in that blue and white Subaru. You can just see streaking out of view on the main screen. Nice little onboard shot there. You can see what sort of work goes in on the wheel as they go in. Lots of bumps there, getting it turned in. You don't want to see any oversteer through this section because that's where you lose a lot of speed and momentum up the hill here into the braking zone for Druids. But yeah, it's a fantastic little circuit and a nice little camera shot there.
Indeed, great work by the broadcast team here at Simply Race, headed up by Mike Yao. So you can just see the amount of commitment through Graham Hill Bend from both Lewis Manley and Ben Brown. They're battling away over 5th position. Just up the road, the battle between the Subarus. So it's Levorg versus Levorg, with Cripps still rounding out the top 3. Buddy is, more importantly, about 3.2 seconds off of the battle for the lead, which shows that Matt Richards is actually closing on Luke Bennett. So again, we could see a repeat, but it just depends on how both Bennett and Richards mitigate the amount of tyre degradation and tyre wear, because with the lateral G-forces being put through the sidewalls, every single competitor is on the medium compound tyres here. And Richards now getting closer and closer. Last lap around, a 46.695 from Bennett, a 46.652 from Richards. So not much in between them, Anthony, in terms of pure race pace.
No, definitely not. There's nothing between them, as you say. But Matt Richards is, at the moment, the faster driver out on circuit. We'll check this lap as they cross the line. There was nothing between them last time, and there's pretty much nothing between them this time. If anything, Bennett was slightly faster that lap around. Then we come back 2 positions. This is Cripps and Webb still battling away. The 2 Subarus, as Cripps goes slightly wide, nearly dips a wheel into that gravel, and now he's got Webb all over the back of him. I'm sure these two are going to try, you would have thought, to work together to try and close that gap up. They're 4 seconds further down the road. Nearly, they're 5 seconds from the race leader, 4 seconds from Richards.
Well, I'm looking at the pace for both Webb, Manley and Brown, and they are running, as is Cripps, in the 46.7s. And the quickest out of the quartet was Ben Brown in the 22 Honda Civic in 6th position. We go back now to the battle for 8th position between Positively Racing's Ed Sibbald in the 001 and also the number 14 of Cam Sports' Christian Kelly. As now they come through Clark Curve, down the Brabham Straight. Sibbald looking to go defensive. Christian Kelly keeping in the toe, looking towards the inside of the Astra. This time around, who's going to get the move on who? Oh, Christian Kelly gets a bit of snap-on oversteer, trying to commit to the corner, and that gives Sibbald the move that he needed to keep ahead. Oh, a little bit of touching between the pair of them as well. But nevertheless, Anthony, Ed Sibbald managed to keep it ahead for the moment in front of Christian Kelly. He's trying to go around the outside through Graham Hill Bend, and this is allowing Chris Wilson in the 68, and it could, now that is very, very close. If there was enough room, I think Chris Wilson might have stuck his nose in there a little bit, but may have thought discretion is the better part of valour.
Yes, definitely, and I'm not sure if race control are going to take a look at that one, but it did look a little bit forceful, the overtake. I know there's a contact in rubbing is racing in touring cars, but that wasn't rubbing, that was a full-on send it, and the only person who should be sending it in this battle is Wilson, who's just behind in the Ford Focus with the send it stickers on the side.
Well, it would seem rather just for that to happen, if I'm completely honest here, but they're still scrapping away over what is 8th position. But look, Sibbald's gotten a bit closer to Christian Kelly down in the hill towards Graham Hill Bend. A little bit of a wider line taken by the Vauxhall Astra, which is allowing Chris Wilson in the 68 in 10th position still to give him an opportunity. I think it's dependent on, again, the tyre management, the tyre degradation, the lateral G-forces going through the sidewalls. Everyone's on the medium tyres, so we will see a plethora of purple-sided sidewalls next time out as Manley coming into the clutches of Ben Brown. Manley had a 47.202 last time around, and Ben Brown did a 46.992. He's over 2/10 quicker than Manley in that Honda, which seems to be coming alive as we're fast approaching half distance here in race 2.
Yeah, definitely, as we see this battle closing in a little further behind as well. Manley and Brown still scrapping it away. Not the usual pace we'd like to see from Manley. He's usually right at the pointy end of the spear, I would say. At
the Roman spear, possibly.
Roman spear, yeah,
yes,
definitely. And not to see him there and see him down in 5th place is not something we would usually see. So, and I'm not sure something he would usually see as well. So, I'm sure it's new territory for him.
I think at the end of the day, we have 18 races in total over 6 rounds. So, it's dependent on consistency. That's the big thing with regards to a championship. Okay, Matt Richards is the one with the target on the back. Lewis Manley, in some respects, has indirectly got that as well, being the number 2 seed coming into the season. But it is a new season altogether. We've got new challenges. We've got Luke Bennett and Christian Kelly promoted from Clio Cups as of last year. So they're bringing a new, different dynamic. You know, Ben Brown is doing double duty. He did the Clios earlier on and was tied with Will Dendy in terms of points, but on countback because Dendy won the final race, race 2, he took the top step of the podium earlier on. But it just shows that even going front-wheel drive Clio Cup car to front-wheel drive touring car, there's very much a lot of skill transfer that you can provide on that front.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the standard of driving in it is a lot different as well. You know, the Civics are completely different to the Clios. A lot more power, wider tyres, bigger weight, you know, different brakings, everything changes, everything. And yeah, so, you know, to transfer over the skills from that, yes, there are things you can bring over, but not all of it. And a lot of things you've got to relearn, you've got to get your head into the mindset of a touring car versus a Clio. There are 2 very different beasts.
Right, well, looking between the leaders now, gap now down to under 6.5 tenths as Matt Richards has put in a 46.797. That was nearly 2 tenths quicker than current leader Luke Bennett, who also won race 1. The gap between them is about 0.4 of a second now, so that's really looking very, very interesting. Actually, Richards is closing the gap hand over fist.
I'm curious to see what's going on. It's going down to 0.2 of a second. Has Bennett had an issue out on circuit? Has he made a mistake somewhere? Because that gap, closed down to nothing. Here, you can see it now. He's right behind him. So Bennett under pressure from Richards as we're lap 17 of 32. We go on board with Richards just to see that, and you can see, look how difficult it is to actually see Bennett's car. He probably doesn't even know he's there. You probably think, what's he got?
Yeah, I think, has he got the Lockheed SR71 stealth paint on that thing?
Yeah.
You know, a bit of aviation trivia there for you people watching at home. But Matt Richards looking ever so close through into Paddock Hill Bend. He's going to get a real good run. He's gone towards the outside of the 101 MG. I don't think he's going to, if he's going to keep it around the outside, he might try for the switchback next time around, but it depends on how quickly Bennett closes the door, and he does so for Graham Hill Bend. Richards run on the back bumper of the MG as they go through the Cooper Straight, as Bennett runs a little bit wider, but it gives him a bit more traction coming out of the corner through into the the left-right, as there's been a bit of dramas a bit further down behind.
Sean King's lost the back end again.
Oh, so Sean King lost the back end again on that BMW. That's a real shame. He's now down into 10th position, but the battle at the front of the field well and truly heating up here as Matt Richards right in the slipstream of Luke Bennett going into Paddock Hill Bend. Now remember what happened last time. Matt Richards was overcommitting.
Yeah.
And he said that the front left was a bit of a mess after the race one. So now that he's got a gauge on these tyres, as has Luke Bennett, as has the rest of the field, because pretty much everyone apart from Ed Sibbald ran them in race one. They've now got a real measure of the tyres. They're now having to work with the success ballast rather than working against it. And that is where I think Matt Richards will start to shine, because you can now see, I think he's just strategically placing his car where he needs to. He doesn't need to do all the hard work, because Luke Bennett is doing that right now.
The main thing you've got to take from this as well is that my prediction, here's a replay of what happened to Sean King earlier on in the race. He's well overcommitted, way too much speed into the corner. That was a bit of a silly mistake on that. You can see the rears all over the marbles there on the outside of Graham Hill Bend, and he lost it before he even finished the corner.
That reminds me of Timo Glock and Roberto Mehi coming together in 2013 at that very same corner at Graham Hill Bend, but at least there was only one car involved rather than another, because then race control would be quickly on that to investigate. But Matt Richards again, closer still. He's just biding his time. We're on lap 20 of 32, so after this we'll just have 11 in the books still to go.
Yep. Now, this was, again, before we were watching that replay, I was going to say, this is what I was expecting to see. These front-wheel drive cars now, with that added weight, have really struggled with the tyres a lot more than what they did in race one. And if you look at the gap between Cripps and Webb's to these two, they're closing it up. It was 5 seconds.
You're right.
5-10 laps ago. It's now only 2 seconds. Those rear-wheel drives are now starting to light up. That's where they're starting to get their power on. You can see them absolutely nose to tail, working together, closing that gap to these two. I reckon we're going to have a 4-way scrap for the lead within the last 5 laps.
Very, very true, because the lap times between Bennett and Richards, it was a 47.191 for the leader, 47.139 for second. Callum Cripps last time around a 46.865. And 1/1000th of a second slower was Matt Webb in the 73. You're spot on here, Anthony, because this now is very much a case of these two keep on battling. The tyres are going to degrade. The Subarus with the better centre of gravity, with the weight put on there through the success ballast, have really started to shine. And you can just say, just by the two leaders going through, they're struggling for traction all over the place, and the Subarus look to be even more planted.
Yep, and they're compromising themselves here by defending, and of course Richard wants to get that win. Bennett doesn't want him to have it. He's got a lot more pressure on him this time around than he did in race one, with the success ballot added on, and now it's that gap is just now getting under that 2 second mark. It's fluctuating through it. I think we're about 1 lap away from seeing that gap going under 2 seconds, and these guys, it's all it's going to take is Matt Richards to go for a move on Bennett, and that gap will disappear.
Well, I think it was at its lowest about 1.5 seconds. It is about 1.5 seconds now, because Callum Cripps is 1.9 seconds behind Bennett. But in the meantime, he is closing quickly, as Manley having to battle away with Ben Brown for P5 going into Paddock Hill Bend. Manley to the inside, Brown to the outside in the Honda Civic, but Manley gets the traction coming through the apex of the corner. Nicely done by the number 2 seed as they head their way up towards Druids. And now the gap between Richards and Cripps is nigh on 1.4. So these times are tumbling. And again, a further degradation on the times. Oh, Richards, nearly gets a bit of understeer going through Surtees there. The car trying to drift to the right-hand side, but the understeer catching the front end. Now, the gap, Anthony, 1.2 seconds.
Yep.
It's coming down big time. 46.813 was the last lap recorded by Callum Cripps. A 46.859. He is the fastest out of the quartet, leading the way. And now the gap is closing. It is 1.1 seconds, or there or thereabouts. And Bennett and Richards now really need to not only strategize with regards to tyre conservation, but also conserving their energies against those two charging behind them.
Yeah, exactly. Webb going a little bit wide there, managing to keep it on the straight and narrow as they go through. But Cripps and Webb, they haven't battled. They've worked together for this middle part, because they don't want to battle for the last spot on the podium. They want to battle for the top spot on the podium, and that's why they have done nothing to compromise each other in these later stages of the race. They've closed up that gap. You can see Cripps with his headlights on now. He's trying to pile on the pressure to Richards as they close up. It's going to be front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. We're lap 25 of 32. And it's still all to play for at the front. Richards is going to want to get past Bennett as soon as possible to try and open that gap, get a car between the two of them. But Bennett's going to make that very difficult to do. And all the meanwhile, they're going to be scrubbing those front tyres massively as they battle through.
Well, Callum Cripps has just put in a 46.797. Gap now down to under 9 tenths between Richards and Cripps. Make that 6 tenths. That gap has come down immeasurably here, as now they come round the final corner. Bennett still leads. Richards close behind in second position. Cripps also closing in third. Matt Webb rounding out the top four and has just put in a 46.741. So the 73 also factoring into this top four scrap for the win here in race 2. On to lap 26 out of 32. Oh, you definitely called it well and truly, Mr. Jordan. I doff my cap to as they come through Graham Hill Bend, and you can just see the amount of traction as both Cripps goes wide, nearly allows Webb to go through down the Cooper Straight, but Callum Cripps, a very, very steely veteran, despite his young years, will be able to do. Oh, Richards goes up the inside of Bennett through into Clark Curve. The pair nearly rubbed panels there, as now Richards will get towards the inside line, going into Paddock Hill Bend. We now go on to lap number 27 of 32. Richards will have the inside run, but will Bennett keep it pinned round the outside? He goes for the switchback. Little bit of contact between the two leaders. But Matt Richards gets back into the lead of the race as Callum Cripps tries to go up the inside of Luke Bennett through Druids. But has to fall back after that one. I think there was a little bit of rubbing panels there between the MG and the Subaru. But now it is well and truly on for the lead of this race.
Definitely so, and you could see that that battle was going to happen. You could see when Matt Webb tried to go down the inside of Callum, that is when the green light came on for Richards to go for that move. He looked behind him and see, right, they're battling now. I've got a gap. Now this is the time to go for that move because I've not got the pressure of Cripps behind anymore. So that was when we were going to see that move, and it showed.
Yes, very true. As now the top four have all set anywhere between a high 47.4 or a high 47.8, and the one that is struggling with tyres, I think.
Oh, Richards was the mistake. Richards was the mistake. He's run off wide, and that's allowed Bennett to get through. It looked like he completely outbraked himself. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's
Alex,
fine because he's dropped from the lead to fourth in 2 corners. So ran wide, locked up into Druids, went very, very wide. That allowed Bennett, Cripps and Webb all to get through. The tyres on these front-wheel drives are quite clearly struggling, as now Cripps has a sniff at the lead here, doesn't he? As does Matt Webb. Matt Webb, I think, is the dark horse here. You know, Cripps is going to close as he is now on Luke Bennett. Now they've got, looks like Ryan Purves in the 99 just up ahead. This is going to get very, very tight. Cripps to the inside of Bennett for the lead through Paddock Hill Bend. Does the Subaru make it through? They go up the Hailwood Hill, and it looks like, I think, that Cripps will get the move done into Druids. He runs wide. Oh, contact between Webb and Bennett through Druids, but Cripps still manages to keep the lead down the hill into Graham Hill Bend. Lap number 29 out of 32. Oh, it's definitely the gloves are off now.
100%. It was an ambitious move from Webb. You could see what he was trying to do. He could see the gap there. Cripps had opened it. He tried to follow through on Bennett, but couldn't get it done. And so Bennett holds on to that second place because it's a lot easier to hold a front-wheel drive car with a bit of contact. You know, you just plant your foot on the power, manage to do that. He just had enough tyres to do that. But leading the way now is a rear-wheel drive car. Here's a replay of what happened to Matt Richards earlier on.
Okay, so he comes out of Paddock Hill Bend, up towards Druids.
On the grass.
Oh, left rear wheel on the grass. It sends the Honda Civic sideways, but he manages to do the old Stig Blomqvist Scandinavian flick trick a la Tiff Needell and manages to keep it going. But then the biggest loser out of this isn't Matt Richards. Matt Webb dropped after this down to 4th position. So he's obviously had a moment. We'll just keep an eye on this for the moment as they are now going through into Surtees, into the right at McLaren. And where is the mistake that Webb makes? Because they now come through into Clark Curve. Oh, Webb just tries to power out of the corner. You can see he's fighting that car convincingly. And I think now they've got the back marker just up ahead. And I think he lost it at Paddock Hill Bend because, look, Cripps goes up the inside of Bennett. Webb goes up the inside. The back end steps out. And what happens here? He runs wide. And I think it's possibly, let's just have a look.
Yeah,
the contact between him, and look, it pitches him sideways by hitting the side of Luke Bennett, and then that puts him 90 degrees the wrong way. Matt Richards goes, oh, thank goodness for that. I'll get 3rd place back at least.
Yeah, definitely. Well, back live now, lap 31 of 32, and you can see the gap there. Cripps has broken away. It's nearly a second now between these two, and you can see now that rear-wheel drive with the success ballast after a long period of time works better. It's easier for the tyres, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on. The front-wheel drives break away at the start, but it's whether or not they can hold it, and in this case, they couldn't.
So we're on to the final lap of race number 2. That's quickly flown by, I must admit, but Callum Cripps leading the way by 1.2 seconds ahead of race 1 winner Luke Bennett. Meanwhile, we go a little bit further back to Ed Sibbald in the 001 Positively Racing Vauxhall Astra, who's got Cam Sports' Chris Wilson in the 68 just behind. And this is the battle for 8th position. Very shortly, Callum Cripps will cross the line to become our second different race winner this afternoon. Oh, more dramas for Matt Webb there on the Cooper Straight. Now, has there been a problem? Looks like that has been the case. Quick replay here through Graham Hill Bend. Completely sideways. Oh, and manages to keep that out of the barriers, but keeps on spinning on the grass. And oh, my goodness me. Oh, right in front of Manley and Brown there. That's not what you wanted.
No.
But Callum Cripps has become our second different race winner ahead of Luke Bennett, who won race 1. Matt Richards again takes a second successive podium. This time it's not second, it's 3rd place. Lewis Manley, as a result of Webb's faux pas there on the Cooper Straight, takes 4th ahead of Ben Brown in the number 22. Christian Kelly takes another top 7 finish, this time rounding out 6th place ahead of Ed Sibbald. Chris Wilson takes 8th ahead of Matt Webb, who was battling for the lead at one point, with Webb finishing in 9th. Sean King in the number 19. BMW rounds out the top 10 with Ben Willis in the 85, Steve Burton in the 87, and Ryan Purves in the 99, rounding out the 13 with, looks like Matt Willett pitted 7 laps from the end, so on lap number 25 out of 32. But again, more dramas there with Callum Cripps getting to the top step this time.
Yep, definitely so. And folks at home, you have to remember it's reverse grid time.
Yes, grid position 6 to 12. 6 to 12. But before we get that underway, I think very shortly I'm going to have a quick chat with our top 3 in that race: Callum Cripps, Luke Bennett, and also Matt Richards. But 2 for 2 different winners here, with one more race to go, with the reverse grid for positions 6 to 12 being drawn live here at Simply Race for continuing coverage of the Simply Race British Championship Season 3 of Touring Cars, Round 1 here in Milton Keynes.
one or two mistakes, but drove pretty well. And then had Matt for company, who was a bit lighter, so he was really fast. But yeah, managed to just pick my opportunities at the right moment, and yeah, it was a good battle.
Well done, Callum. I'm not too sure if we might have a technical difficulty with my microphone at the moment, but I know that Callum can hear me. But all the very best for race number 3 this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Okay, let's have a chat with race 2 runner-up, Luke Bennett. A pretty interesting battle out there, obviously with the success ballast for everybody involved. How did the MG sort of change in terms of the situation referenced there, the battle between yourself and the likes of Matt Richards and Callum Cripps?
Well, if I'm honest, the MG, the handling didn't change too much, to be fair. It was just, sort of straight line speed is what I could feel anyway. 2, 3, 4 tenths a lap slower or something like that. Tyres a bit worse at the end as well because of the weight, but still happy to come away with P2. Obviously, I know the Subarus are going to be quick at the end, so not surprised to see one of them come through and win the race.
And thoughts ahead of the third and final race this afternoon. How are you feeling going into it motivational-wise?
Well, I'm really looking forward to maybe having a hack from the back, as it said. Hopefully, see my championship rivals by the seams of it, Callum and Matt, maybe get caught up in an incident. That would be great.
Okay, all the very best of luck for the final race this afternoon, Luke.
Thank you.
Last, but by no means least, runner-up in race 2, but third place in race 3, in race 1, but runner-up in race 2. Third place in race 2, my apologies there. Matt Richards, still another podium to keep you going through this. Just tell us about the race from your perspective, how the tyres sort of started to change with the added addition of the success ballast.
I think I actually quite liked the balance of the car with the weight. It started to help the rear end into some of the corners, and just helped me balance the car a little bit better. I think the tyre wear was a little bit better over the race as well. But yeah, just got a bit silly. Checked my tyres in the wrong place and had a bit of a moment. I think we could have had a bit of a better result out of that. But yeah, happy to come away with third still. It's a good point score, and just see what we can do in race 3.
Okay, Matt Richards, third place in race 2. All the very best of luck for our final race of the afternoon here.
Cheers.
Yes.
To hear from them. But of course, I think the one thing that people at home are going to be wanting to watch
Yes.
now is, of course, who is going to be starting where. Now, we've got this lovely trophy here. This is actually the third place trophy for today for the championship. Alex, would you like to do the honours?
Well, considering this is my first time, I think I'll see...
Dunk a hand in. Tell us who is going to be starting on pole position for race 3.
Right, the driver starting on pole position for race 3. Number 85, Ben Willis.
Ben Willis starting on pole and for the camera so everyone can see.
Yep.
Ben Willis. There you go, you can see it. Starting on pole position for race 3.
Well, at least I can't have Just curse for that one, can I? Because I just dunked my hand in, swizzled it around a little bit, and jobs are good.
There it is, folks. So Ben Willis starting on pole for race
Yes.
3. Stick around, and I'm going to go and tell race control to sort that grid out.
Indeed. Join us back in just a few moments' time for the final race here at Simply Race for the British Championships. Round 1, race 3 for touring cars. Final race, as by magic, through the wonders of modern
Yes.
technology and the internet. Welcome back to the third and final race of the opening round of Season 3 of the Touring Cars for the Simply Race British Championship. Alex Goldschmidt and Anthony Jordan, having been with you pretty much, well, you've been racing this morning, and I've been commentating all day, so you've had the best of both worlds.
You've been slacking, I've been working.
No, I haven't been slacking. I was up since about 6:45 this morning to drive up here to Milton Keynes.
I had a nice lie-in.
Yeah, well, you did.
During practice.
Yeah. Well, we go to the third and final race, and we did draw the number 85 of Ben Willis out of the hat for reverse grid pole. Sean King will be alongside the number 19. Then it's Matt Webb and Chris Wilson in the 73 and 68, rounding out the top two rows. Row 3, it is Ed Sibbald in the Positively Racing 001 Vauxhall Astra, ahead of Cam Sports' Christian Kelly in the 14, Ben Brown in the 22, and Lewis Manley in the number 2 Astra, rounding out the top 4 rows. Completing the top 10, the defending champion Matt Richards in the number 1, and Luke Bennett in the 101 Stealth Bomber MG. I'm going to nickname that, I think. Yeah. Be cool if he keeps that livery for the season. Callum Cripps in 11th, Steve Burton in 12th, Ryan Purves and Matt Woolett in the 99 and 22 respectively, rounding out the grid itself. But going to be quite interesting here as to what happens when we go lights out, because it's a very different proposition. You know, it was drawn out of that wonderful third place trophy we had on display here on the desk, didn't we? Yeah. Ben Willis gets the prime position and has a clear shot in front of anybody. But Sean King could still get the march. We know how quick the 125 M Sport is off the grid, especially with it being rear-wheel drive. And every single driver, again, will be on the medium tyres. So it looks like the only person that has used a set of softs is Ed Sibbald in race 1.
Yes, and I feel like that was a mistake. I won't do that again.
Well, there's still another 5 rounds to go as we are pretty much waiting for the revs to rise. So let's see who gets the jump into Paddock Hill Bend for the third and final race of the day. Revs rise.
Jumps.
Luke Bennett, very naughty individual, because managed to creep across the line and went half a car length out of side of the grid spot. But then Sean King jumps into the lead. Matt Webb in second. Ben Willis, our reverse grid pole sitter. Oh, Chris Wilson has a bit of a moment going through Paddock Hill into the gravel as they all start to make their way through. It's nearly 3 abreast down outside of the top 10. Manley to the outside in the number 2 Astra. He's trying to go up the inside of Luke Bennett, who I think will be pretty much investigated for that jump start there. As now they filter their way down the Cooper Straight into the left at Surtees, through into the right at McLaren. Sean King leading the way. Webb in second, Willis in third, Kelly fourth, as looks like the number 22 of Brown is trying to get past Manley for 8th position. Callum Cripps already up into 9th place, as it looks like. Yep, Luke Bennett has already served the drive-through for a jump start there, as now Ben Willis up the inside of Sean King, as Matt Webb now has the lead. Up the hill they go. Willis to the inside. King trying to get the switch back through Druids. Both of them take a nice tight apex there, but good to see already that Webb is starting to break away from the front of the field. He's got a gap of nearly 1.2 seconds. He's done a Sebastian Vettel here in the first couple of laps.
He has indeed, yeah. So we can see that the rear-wheel drive, we were seeing that it was struggling a little earlier on in the race, but then it comes back later on. And of course, Webb with less weight on the car than what anyone else would have. You know, he dropped way back in the order because of his incidents. And of course, that's shone in this race. And, you know, he's got not a lot of weight on the car. And now he's at the front with a fresh set of tyres, rear-wheel drive, look after them, get to the front. He's got a lot of front-wheel drives in between him and his, what I would say, main rival out there would be Richards, all the way down in 9th place with this little scrap here.
So Manley up the inside of Brown for 7th position through Druids. Brown will get the inside run into the next corner. Richards trying to feed through and try and get past the number 2 as Cripps up on the back bumper of the number 1 of Matt Richards. So Cripps down in 10th position. Will be close to completing lap 4 out of 32. As this is going to change the dynamic of what happens at the end of the standings, at the end of this day, the first of 6 rounds here at Simply Race for the Simply Race British Championships, concluding all the way down in December 20th here when we come back to the Garden of England for Brands Hatch Grand Prix, which will be the season finale.
Yeah, and these two again, side by side, scrapping away. Richards and Manley again is what the battle we were expecting to see throughout this season, and we're seeing it in round 1 of race 3 as they go through. Manley again defensive, looks to the inside of Wilson, can't quite do anything here. Cripps is right behind them as well. He's on the rear-wheel drive, of course, so he is going to want to capitalise on these two battling as we go on board with Cripps. He looks here, can't quite go down the insides of Richards this time, stays behind again. He's going to be looking after those tyres. I know how much the front tyres of these front-wheel drive cars just absolutely get torn apart through here, and all the meanwhile the rear-wheel drive's just looking after them, driving through, not a care in the world.
Indeed. Approaching speeds of nearly 140 miles now, going to the braking zone for the fearsome Paddock Hill Bend as Matt Richards gets a little bit of understeer, I think, hitting the curbs going into Paddock Hill Bend as Wilson goes up the that is Manley trying to go around the outside of Wilson there. So Manley really feverishly trying to get through. Oh, he goes side by side, a little bit of door rubbing there through Graham Hill Bend, but Manley makes it through and then gets in front of Richards. Wilson now being compromised as a result of that, and now Callum Cripps trying to go towards the inside through. Oh, there's a tag on Richards on the back bumper of Manley. Oh, and Richards collected by Wilson into the barriers goes the number 1 seed. Drama for the defending champion on lap 6 out of 32.
I have to say it was an ambitious part of the track to try and get all those cars through side by side. It was going to end in tears. It did end in tears, and unfortunately Matt Richards bore the brunt of that. It looked like he completely outbraked himself going into the final corner, and yeah, just collected into the back, massively unsettled the car. Concertina effect kicked in, absolutely nothing the drivers could do behind to avoid, and that resulted in Richards straight off into the barrier, and that is going to be a disaster for race 3. And here's a replay of what happened.
Right, okay, they go through into Surtees, into the right at McLaren. Wilson gets passed by Cripps. Now, here's where the first bit of contact happens between Richards and Manley. It spins out the back end. Chris Wilson trying to go towards the outside of the Honda. Can't do anything about it. He was an unwilling participant, and I think Matt Richards tried to recover that, and he just got span out as a result. Oh, and he gets a further tag, and that is what sent him into the barrier, and that was from Ryan Purves, I believe.
It was, yes. So, yeah, Richards all the way down in 13th, Bennett in 14th. That's not what I was expecting to see in race 3.
Who'd have thunk that, eh? Who'd have thunk that after 2 brilliant right races, first of all, but this battle here, which has got in, you've got, that is Sean King, Christian Kelly, Ed Sibbald, and also now Ben Brown. This is the battle for 3rd position. So, as you said, we've got a rear-wheel drive car leading this, with Ben Willis in the Honda just up ahead. But in the meantime, Matt Webb has absolutely flown off into the distance with a gap of 2.7 seconds, as we're now on to lap number 8 out of 32. So this is going to be quite interesting as Sybil goes defensive on Brown, who goes towards the outside on Druids. Honda's kept on being planted around the outside, but Sybil gets the switchback, keeps the position down into Graham Hill Bend. And you can just see how committed all 4 of those drivers were, and none of them really put a foot wrong through that corner.
Yeah, again, the only driver these drivers are going to need to be concerned about, again, I'm going to say, is going to be Callum Cripps. You can see him in the background there behind Lewis Manley. Of course, he's in the rear-wheel drive, and we've seen the rear-wheel drives at the later stage of the race. They come much better. Here we go, switch them. We'll look at Manley and Cripps here. Again, 2 very good racers, sim racers and real racers as well in terms of karting, Euro NASCAR.
And Citroen C1s. Citroen C1s. Yeah, because for those that might not remember our voices, we commentated on the Distrigo Parts Distribution Citroen C1 24 Hours, which celebrated the centenary of Citroën last year at Silverstone with 99 cars, and having a fairy tale where the team that set pole got excluded for being underweight post-qualifying and went on to win after 24 hours of attrition.
Yeah.
But we digress. Back to the action here at the Simply Race British Championships. Lewis Manley being hunted down by the Subaru Levorg of Callum Cripps in the 21, and you can just see how feisty Callum Cripps is looking. He's throwing that Subaru every which way but loose there.
Yes, he is, and again, it just shows the characteristics of a rear-wheel drive car versus a front-wheel drive car around this circuit shows massively. I feel this circuit is a rear-wheel drive car circuit. I don't feel it suited. Oh, and there's a mistake.
That's Ben Willis. Ben Willis, and that has collected Sean King in the process. Going into Druids. So that has meant that Christian Kelly now up into 2nd place. Ed Sibbald trying to go up the inside of King down into Graham Hill Bend, and I think he's made the move. Yes, he has. So that was a bit of a move that I don't think really. I think I'm not too sure if Ben Willis lost it coming out of Paddock Hill Bend up the Hellwood Hill. Here's a replay. Yes, he does. One wheel into the gravel. The back end steps out to the right, then to the left. The car will start moving towards the right-hand side of the circuit, and King's got absolutely nowhere to go. Oh, my goodness me. But give props to Sean King. He still kept the apex, didn't he?
Yeah, he held on to the apex, managed to... that's another way of slowing down for the corner. I
suppose. Yeah, true.
Absolutely sideswiped by another car. But yeah, as they've managed to get through. Now it's Manley side by side with Willis. And of course, Cripps is going to try and go around the outside here. Again, it's a risky move in the rear wheel drive. You don't want to get forced out wide onto that AstroTurf because you'll lose the back end as they go into the braking zone here of Graham Hill. And Manley's got past. Cripps has been stuck behind now Willis as they go through these corners, and that gap is opening up. Cripps needs to get past Willis as soon as possible. Of course, Willis, our pole sitter for this race from the reverse grid, gets down the inside. Now does Cripps, and that's going to be the overtake there.
So up into 7th position will be the 21 Subaru Levorg of Callum Cripps, who now has 4 cars in his line of sight. And this is all the motivation that the Race 2 winner needs. But Sean King still holding on to 3rd position as Ben Brown and the 22 Cam Sport Honda trying to close him down. Then it's Ed Sibbald, who looks to be taking his best finish of the day so far. He's currently in 5th in that brightly coloured Vauxhall Astra from Positively Racing. And then you've got Lewis Manley, Callum Cripps, and Ben Willis running out the top 8. But look just up ahead. Christian Kelly isn't that far away, is he?
He's not, no. And again, that falls down to that front-wheel drive. You know, earlier on, he was battling away.
Oh! King spins out, and that has caused absolute carnage through Clark Curve.
Absolute disaster. It was, again, those rear-wheel drive cars, you can push them as hard as you can, but if you push them a little bit too hard, if the back end steps out, they're gone. There's no saving it, and that's what we've seen. And unfortunately, that it came back into the middle of the circuit. That would have been a red flag in real life, but of course here with no damage or anything like that,
yes,
managed to get away with it. And of course we can carry on racing, but that really shook that field up there, didn't it? Here's a replay.
Okay, right, let's have a look. So, right, King boots it. Yeah, he booted it. Ben Brown's got nowhere to go. Ed Sibbald gets past and gets tagged. Oh, and then King gets a hefty whack from Callum Cripps, who absolutely had nothing to do with it. But Ed Sibbald, I must admit, he's still in P3 because he only touched on the right rear of that Astra, and that kept him in 3rd. But the key point is with all this spinning around and everything, how much damage has that done to his tyres? Because Lewis Manley is literally on the same pace as Ed Sibbald. They're running in the 47s at the moment, 47.004, despite that touch for Ed Sibbald. Yeah. And Lewis Manley was less than a 10th off. Ben Willis, a 47.257. Callum Cripps, a 46.825, despite having nowhere to go and had no other alternative but Sean King's side door met with Cripps' front bumper on the Subaru.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a hair-raising race so far. We're on that 4th.
That's saying the very least there, isn't it?
Exactly. So, you know, these guys battling away, of course, they've had huge battles. I know those fronts are going to be near on. They're going to be falling away, I would say, at quite a rate of knots here. Here's a little further back. This is Chris Wilson battling away with Burton, who's just in front as they head through Paddock Hill Bend. It's, again, 2 front-wheel drives. Mercedes power versus Ford power. If you had to put money on it, you would, yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is that when you look at it, Mercedes in real life use the Swindon engines and the Fords use Mount Tunes.
Yeah.
Mount Tune is actually an approved aftermarket retrofit courtesy of Ford Motor Company.
Oh, there you go.
So that's a little bit more trivia. Plus also with the fact that I've been in the BTC CC paddock for the last couple of years or so, I've got an understanding of the technology behind these cars. You know, 1.6 litre turbocharged engines with a sequential 6-speed gearbox. They're pushing over 300 plus brake horsepower at the very least. But it's really getting interesting as now Wilson right on the back bumper of Burton going into Paddock Hill Bend. He goes to the right, he then goes to the left. Down the hill they come through Paddock Hill Bend, up the Hellwood Hill, up towards Druids. Looks like Wilson hasn't got the run on Steve Burton in the 87 Mercedes quite yet, but at the front of the field, as they say, you're not talking about the leader. He's doing a very good job. Matt Webb now nearly 6 seconds ahead of Christian Kelly, who's running out the top 2 with Ed Sibbald fractionally ahead. 6 seconds. Manley was on his heels, trying to get a podium to round out the day in style.
Yeah, definitely. This third race has been completely turned upside down from what we've seen.
The salt timer effect has come back in.
Yeah, it definitely has, and it's completely changed this race. And for the people watching at home, I'm sure they're like, well, this is what we like to see. This is going to keep the championship close.
Yes.
We don't want to see someone just breaking away. We look here back at Ben Willis. He's still got Callum Cripps behind him. Callum Cripps hasn't managed to get past, despite the fact that Willis hasn't got any weight on his car at all.
True.
There's no ballast on Willis'
and Callum Cripps has got the maximum amount of ballast.
Yes.
As a result of his race 2 victory. Yeah. So
the fact that Cripps is up in 6th place and managing to get past, he is going to struggle slightly, but he has won a race with he had quite a bit of ballast on the car for race 2, not the maximum, but still a fair chunk. So this car does do well later on in the race still. So I holding on to Cripps here. I reckon he's got something left in the tank, and it's not just fuel.
That's very, very true, as we're on board now with Matt Richards, who took 2nd in race 1, 3rd in race 2. Bit of a difficult races now around the outside. I cannot believe that. We've seen it in Clios. We've now seen it in touring cars. Callum Cripps around the outside of Ben Willis through Druids and makes the move stick through Graham Hill Bend. Another great move of the day here at the Simply Race British Championships. There's now Matt Richards up into 9th place. He's chasing down Chris Wilson in the 68. Obviously, it's a bit of damage limitation in the 3rd and final race of round 1 here at the Simply Race British Championships for touring cars, season 3. So the defending champion has a little bit of work to do in the final race, but let's see. Because looking at the pace of Richards at the moment, Anthony, he's just done a 46.953 on the last lap. They come across the line, 47.812. He was over 3/10 quicker than Chris Wilson on that last lap. But then you look, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that he could actually catch up to Ben Brown in the 22, who's currently 7th, and he's effectively 6 seconds up the road.
He is, yeah. It's going to be an interesting one just to see what they can do. I feel like we're a bit too late on in the race for anything really to happen. I mean, we're on lap 19 of 32. There's pretty much 12 laps to go because they're going to cross the line now. As you see it crosses over to 20 laps. So, with 12 laps to go, I feel like there's not a lot he could do.
Oh, that was close. Matt Richards with the left front of the Honda Civic touched the right rear of Chris Wilson in the 68 from Camsport with the Just Send It livery, but the Focus still keeps ahead for the moment. Oh, that was very, very close indeed. And you can just see how much Matt Richards wants to get that position.
He's really trying to push, isn't he?
He is trying to push, and what you've got to think about it from this perspective, a championship assault is not won in the first 3 races. There's another 15 after this. There is still time for Matt Richards to get consistency. But also, one of the biggest people that is profiting from this is Lewis Manley. He's up into P4, and he's still within, a second of Ed Sivold as Matt Richards tries to go around the outside through McLaren and gets the switch back through into Clark Curve, but this time he won't get the run on Chris Wilson unless he pulls up into the slipstream, down the Barabam Straight. So lap 21 of 32. 11 laps to go to complete the action here in the first round of the 2020 Simply Race British Championships in touring cars for season 3. Up the Hailwood Hill they go. Wilson still ahead of Richards in 8th and 9th respectively, but looks to be a bit deeper on the brakes from Richards going through into the approach as he's now trying to swarm all over the back bumper of the Ford Focus going through Graham Hill Bend. And is that me, or do I see a black BMW behind? Oh, there's Sean King.
It is. Sean King is back for redemption. Hopefully he keeps it on the straight and narrow this time around. Last time around, all it was is that he'd run wide.
Yep.
He'd done the same thing he'd done every time in terms of how much power he was putting down. It was just he was on the dirty part of the track, and that's what caused the back end to step around. So it was just an unfortunate moment there. But now, right on the back, that rear-wheel drive is coming alive now in this BMW, all over the back bumper of Richards as they go up the hill as Richards and Wilson go defensive. Wilson tries to take the outside line. King follows. Can't quite do anything this time. They all slot back into place. This is where we saw some carnage earlier on in the previous race. Again, Richards trying to go to the outside. Can't quite do anything. He's got the switchback. Now they're side by side as they go through Surtees, and it's going to be who can get through the corner first. And Richards holds it through, squeezes that Citroen. Citroen? That's not a Citroen. That's a Honda.
You see, he's getting his marks, he's getting his brands mixed up there, but what a move there. But round the outside of through into Mercedes and then into McLaren round the outside there of Chris Wilson. But I'm sure that Chris Wilson will want to fire one back across the bow there. But here is Callum Cripps again battling away, and look how close they are now to Ed Sibbald. So I think it's going to be the case that we've got we're now on to very shortly lap 24 out of 32, so 8 laps still to go, Anthony. And if I'm honest here, if Sibbald can defend, then that's going to keep Manley in front of Cripps, but it depends on who's going to want this position most. And I know for a fact Callum Cripps has already got 2 podiums. Lewis Manley hasn't got one as Cripps goes up the inside.
Now, was there contact there?
I don't think.
2 of them?
I'm not too sure. I think it was very much a case of I don't think there was, if I'm honest with you, because Lewis might have been, I spoke to him briefly before the third race, and he said in testing, the Vauxhall Astra was 4/10 quicker than anything else, and obviously with now the Honda coming in, it's completely changed the playing field, so to speak. So now, Cripps using, as you said, the rear-wheel drive machinery to its absolute optimum. And now he has got 7 laps to catch and pass Ed Sibbald. Let's have a look at the replay here. Now, this is between Cripps and Manley. No,
there wasn't contact. So Manley looked like he'd outbraked himself, couldn't get that front turned in. And there you go. Cripps taking full opportunity from that one, diving down the inside. Yeah,
so a clean move there by Callum Cripps. I thought that might have been the case. But now, Ed Sibbald in the Vauxhall Astra, trying to keep Callum Cripps and Lewis Manley, who is a little bit further down the road than he would like. He's about nigh on a second off of Callum Cripps, but here is Luke Bennett still battling away, despite the fact he's taken a win and a second place this afternoon. He's battling away with now what is going to be Steve Burton, who's currently in 13th position, so the Stealth Black MG not being able to move up the order. Chris Wilson in the meantime, and Sean King trying to keep with Matt Richards as Richards takes the title line. King nearly loses the back end on that particular occasion again. It seems to be his Achilles heel coming out of that corner as we see Callum Cripps going now up towards the back bumper of Ed Sibbald, through into Druids, down the dip into the left at Graham Hill Bend before the Cooper Straight. And again, the front wheel drive's starting to struggle in the last 6 laps of this race. Probably I would have thought it would have been from around lap 18 onwards that the front wheel drives would really start to struggle, and that has been the case for the likes of Lewis Manley, obviously Matt Richards and Luke Bennett in the trenches. As up the inside, Callum Cripps did an absolute brilliant overtake there, and he's going side by side. He's going to get the run on Ed Sibbald as they come across the line, and that was close between them, 0.06 of a second between the pair as they cross the line. But Cripps up the inside of Sibbald, 2 textbook moves, but Ed Sibbald not giving Cripps an opportunity to breathe going into Druids. He's up the inside of the 21 Subaru, but Cripps, if he gets the run coming out of Graham Hill Bend, no, he doesn't. The back end breaks traction as he puts the power down, and Sibbald back up into 3rd.
That's excellent driving from Sibbald there, under pressure. Of course, Cripps looked like he had that move done down the inside of Paddock Hill, but yeah, as onto the braking zone into Druids, Sibbald said, absolutely no way am I letting you get away with that one this time around, Sunshine.
I think the other words would be the thou shalt not pass move there.
Thou shalt not pass. Yes, definitely so. But on this time around, Sibbald again goes defensive, swoops back to the outside. Again, Cripps looks down the inside, gets it done again. Are we going to see a repeat? I think Sibbald's a little bit too far back. It looked like Sibbald turned a little bit too late for the Paddock Hill. And this time around, Callum Cripps gets the job done. But yeah, cracking stuff from these two.
Yep, so Callum Cripps looking to secure a 3rd successive podium, the only driver that is on course for doing so this afternoon here at the opening round of the season. 5 of 6 rounds still to go after this one, with the next round being the 27th of September. And we'll be heading to Donington Park in Leicestershire for that one. But Callum Cripps doing a fantastic job. But look at the lead that Matt Webb has got over Christian Kelly. It's over 9.8 seconds as we are now on to lap number 29 out of 32. There is the leader, and he's about to pass. I think that looks to be the 87 of C. Burton just up ahead in the Mercedes A45. But Matt Webb has, he's had so much drama in the first 2 races, Anthony, and the 3rd race has well come into his favour.
Definitely so, yeah. We've not spoken about Matt all the way through this race, and yeah, he's just absolutely dived away at the front. 10 seconds from Christian Kelly in second place. And of course, rear-wheel drive at the front, uncontested, not challenged in any way. He's just managed to break away, and I guarantee his tyres are just as brand new.
Shiny smooth on the top of the
Yes.
top, like they've just come out of the wrappers.
Yes, yeah, just out the wrappers. Nice, shiny, and smooth.
There's Christian Kelly from Cam Sport in the number 14. He's on course for his best finish of the first 3 races in second position, 10.1 seconds off of Matt Webb. And then Callum Cripps is a further 5.5 seconds away from the brightly hued number 14 Ford Focus from Christian Kelly down in third place. Ed Sibbald, Lewis Manley, Ben Brown, Ben Willis, Matt Richards up into 8th past Chris Wilson and Sean King rounding out the top 10. But it is just, I think, really now a mere formality, because as soon as Webb got the advantage and got away, he went away like a scalded cat, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He just absolutely broke away at the front. And, that's one of those things that you see from these drivers. When you give them that opportunity to do it, that's when you start to see them shine. And that's when you start to see the real skill of the driver, just breaking away, head down, get the job done, and take the win. As again, we look back here, Sean King again struggling with those rears. I think because of his moments out in circuit, he's struggling with those rear tyres. That's what happens. If you lose the back end in a rear-wheel drive car a couple of times in a race, then they're gone.
Yes.
They overheat, you get flat spots, you start to get a lot of vibration through the wheel, and he's had a bit of a nightmare on this one, I would have thought.
So, fast approaching the final lap of the afternoon's action to conclude the first round of the 2020 Simply Race British Championships. Touring cars providing as much drama as you would see in real life here in a virtual setting here at Brands Hatch. Oh, Sean King goes sideways through Graham Hill Bend, and that's probably not the way he wanted it, but we are on to the final lap. Matt Webb has crossed the line to go on to the 32nd and final lap of race 3 here, as Steve Burton still circulating in 13th. The brightly coloured Mercedes A45 still doing its best, but Matt Webb now comes through into the left at Surtees, into the right at McLaren for the final time. One more corner to go. He boots the power down in the Subaru Levorg GT. 3 different winners from 3 different races in the opening round of the season. This time it's the number 73 of Matt Webb in the Subaru Levorg GT that takes the victory here at Brands Hatch Indy.
Yeah, excellent win from Matt Webb. He's going to be very pleased with that one, as you can imagine so, and you can see it here.
Drifting through Paddock Hill Bend like a good one. Nicely done there.
Yeah,
as next up, Christian Kelly will take the runner-up spot for race number 3 here, ahead of Callum Cripps, the only driver this afternoon that has taken 3 podium finishes. I think it was a 3rd in race 1, a win in race 2, and he rounds out the top 3 in 3rd here. Great result for Ed Sibbald. In 4th place in the Positively Racing Vauxhall Astra, ahead of the number 2 seed, Lewis Manley, who rounds out the top 5. I'm sure that he'll be coming back firing next time out in around 4 weeks' time on the 27th of September. Matt Richards will finish in 8th place behind Ben Brown and Ben Willis, who round out 6th and 7th respectively. Chris Wilson takes 9th ahead of Sean King, who rounds out the top 10.
Well, I'm sure we're going to chat to some of the drivers soon.
Yes, I am indeed.
So, I will leave you to it. I'm sure the drivers are going to pop into your voice chat in just a moment, and you'll switch microphone and have a good old chin wag with the drivers. I'm going to try and have a chin wag with the drivers who are not on the rostrum.
Yes.
And, see what happened in the race.
Okay, there we are. Hello. But 3 great races to conclude what's been 5 fantastic races of the opening round of the Simply Race British Championships. But obviously, Anthony, the next round is Donington Park on the 27th of September. Then it's the 18th of October for Croft, Alton Park, 8th of November. You're here for the 29th of November, which is the penultimate round of the season, Snetterton 300.
Yep.
And then I'm back for the season finale on December 20th. Yep. But Anthony, thank you for joining me in the commentary for all 3 races, and good to see you again, mate, and well done this morning.
Yes, thank you very much.
Right, okay, I'm now going to have a chat with our top 3.
Third different race winner from 3 different races. That looks a bit easy after everything else kicked off after the start of this race, didn't it?
That was so much fun. At least it didn't spin it this time.
I mean, obviously, a reverse grid race always spices things up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was quite lucky. Get a start like that and then off, so I didn't really see anybody, which was nice.
And obviously, being able to keep the tyres, I mean, you were running pretty consistently throughout the duration of the race. Just a great way to round out the day, wasn't it, for you?
I can't tell you how much fun this is. This is just awesome. Thanks, Simply Race. Anybody listening in Milton Keynes, get down here.
And if that isn't an endorsement, I don't know what is. Next up, from Cam Sport, the number 14 of Christian Kelly. Christian, congratulations, second place, managing to troubleshoot your way through everything else that was happening in front. Just tell us how you're feeling after getting the focus onto the second position.
Yeah, very satisfied. Just managed to avoid Ben and Sean coming together, and then it opened up from there. I think I had enough pace to trouble them anyway, so it was just about what rate are the guys behind going to come and catch up. But felt pretty good in the car, pushed it a bit harder that race. Second, fifth, sixth, I'll take that.
Well done. Congratulations on the results this weekend, Christian, and we'll see you next time on September 27th for Donington Park.
Thank you.
Last but by no means least, the only driver this weekend that has done 3 for 3 on the podiums, Callum Cripps, third in race 1, winner in race 2, and now third in race 3. That was absolute. That was a bit pandemonium style in race 3, wasn't it? There.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember half of it, to be honest, because there was so much that went on. But I had people overtake me, I overtook them. I had a shunt halfway through it. But yeah, it was at the end there. I managed to pull off some moves. I sat behind some people, judged what they were doing, and then just went for a move. Paddock Hill, around the outside of Druids. Surtees as well. So yeah, it was really, really good fun. The Subaru's a lot better on its tyres and everything else, so I'm quite happy that I was definitely sure after practice when I was 11th that this was going to be a front-wheel drive track. But yeah, to come around with, that result is pretty special.
Well done. Hopefully we'll see you back for Donington Park on the 27th of September, but congratulations on 3 successive podiums in the opening race race afternoon this season, mate.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Well, in many respects, Anthony, that's it. Job done.
Yeah,
Round 1 in the books.
Yeah, exactly. Time to have a cup of tea, sit down. Oh, we got the podium as well.
Yes, we have got the podium.
Yeah,
the final podium of the afternoon, which will be taking place in around about 15 minutes' time. But really, a big thank you to you all for watching out there. A big thank you to everyone that got involved on the YouTube channel through the chats, and obviously for all of you that have been watching through the relevant streams on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. We've been broadcasting through the VRRC, who Anthony and I have been doing some work for over the past few weeks.
Yep.
Downforce Racing, the Simply Race official Facebook page, amongst other things. But thank you very much for tuning in. We'll have our podium in around about 12, 13 minutes times. Well, we'll actually have it in a couple of minutes' time. But a big thank you all to watching, and we'll see you next time on the 27th of September 2020 for round 2 of 6 at Donington Park. Set to be a cracker. Thanks for watching. Right, final podium of the opening round of the Simply Race British Championships, this time for Touring Cars Season 3, Round 1. Third place, with a total of 40 points, Matt Richards. What was that? Finally, he's not first. Oh dear, the banter's going to start already. Second place, a further point ahead, Luke Bennett. Don't forget the social distancing, but your winner for round 1. The only person to be on the podium 3 times, a third in race 1, a win in race 2, and a third in race 3, Callum Cripps. So, ladies and gentlemen, your podium for round 1 for Touring Cars, Season 3. Give them a round of applause. Congratulations, well done. So that's it from us here at Simply Race in Milton Keynes. Thank you for tuning in. Join us on September 27th for round 2 at Donington Park. Thank you for watching and have a great bank holiday weekend.